Good evening, One Pride. Hope you are all doing well this evening. This is going to be the college football podcast. We're just doing a bit of a normal open like we do with the Lions pod today. I'm just waiting for Ryan to get in the building. This thing has all been arranged very much at the last minute this week because work and other concerns have been getting in the way. So we'll be starting off shortly, but hope you're all doing well. Hope you're doing well. Got Matt in the building with us today, a rare appearance. How you doing, Matt? You all good?
First time this season, I think, on the college show. I feel like a bit of a fraud myself, not mentioning any names coming into this show, but there we go. No, I felt bad that I haven't been on all year, so I wanted to come on. I actually watched one of the games last week, and it was a doozy. So, yeah, no, I'm doing well, though, man. It's been good. And back to back, because we had the Saints preview yesterday, and TJ Jones was his excellent self. So, feeling good right now.
Hopefully you told him how much of a fraudulent team he supports this year.
Oh, he very much told us himself.
You know what? It does not surprise me. I read his tweets because I'm on Twitter a lot, and he's very humble. So yeah, I'm not surprised. But yeah, thanks to everyone who's in the building. Appreciate you all joining. Yeah, so we'll kick off in a moment as soon as Ryan gets in there. But yeah. I mean, the championship games start tonight. I'm going to be up till stupid o'clock in the morning, but I have two very vested interests today. Obviously, big Pac-12, last ever Pac-12 game. It's going to be dead after tonight. And then CUSA championship game as well, which may not seem very attractive compared to the Pac-12, but it is. It's going to be a doozy, so I'm looking forward to that. Hey, Buck-EYYE and MI. Hey, Grandizer. Hey, Mile Marker. Hey, Ashley Bellinger. Hope you are all doing well. Lisa, hope you are keeping well as well. Been a while. Feels like a while since I've done a pod now, but hope everything's been going all right in my absence.
I think it's been all right, but it feels less for not having you on as often, I have to say.
Used to doing cold opens for the college. I just go straight into it. So I just chitter-chatting beforehand is really a pain in the neck. But yeah, no, it just work's been life's getting in the way. It's just a bit of pain. But
I mean, it's the time of year for your industry, isn't it?
Oh, it's that and life in general. It's been a pain. It's just been having time to set these things up. These college pods take about a day's worth of prep, like a day. And a day is, I don't have a day of time at this moment in time. So, but it's going to be good. We've got a lot to go through today. We're going to go through all the playoff scenarios, the FCS, FBS. Going to look back at last week, and then of course championship game week upcoming. If you've got any questions you want to ask, any topics you want discussing, then I'll either put them in here or we'll do them on a later show, depending. Because now the season's over, we're probably going to do we're going to do a few more shows just because there's a lot to recap for the year, really, and then it's draft prep time. Weirdly enough, with the Lions doing really well, we don't need it, but we do at the same time as well for when it eventually is over, when we win the Super Bowl. So
I've put the links out everywhere I normally put the links out for the normal podcast, so hopefully that will stimulate some more people as well. We shall see. I don't know whether Lions people who recognise us will allow college stuff on there, but we'll see.
Awesome. Yeah, well, we get our usual dedicated listeners in here. So,
best scenario for a Buckeye: Georgia beats Alabama, that eliminates Alabama. Washington beats Oregon, which eliminates Oregon and puts Washington in. Louisville beats Florida State, which eliminates both of them probably. And then Oklahoma State beats Texas, which eliminates Texas. Which leaves... Does it leave Ohio State in 4?
See, this is a controversial issue for me. We'll talk about it here, but I don't think teams who are not involved in championship week should be allowed in this conversation. Because last year, Ohio State got in because USC lost, but Ohio State only got in because they didn't play a game.
They didn't have the opportunity to lose.
Yes. So I don't like that the teams who are not in championship week have an opportunity to get in the playoffs just because of the misfortune of another team in the championship game. I don't really think... I mean, the championship game should count, of course, but that's just me. I feel like you can't benefit from that. But they did last year. But It's very difficult this year because there's 8 teams involved this time, and there's very rarely 8 teams involved so close to the start of the season. So
Yeah, and I mean, this is the last year of it, right?
to the
Because it's
end.
the expanded
12.
It's an expanded playoff. In which case, I think it's absolutely fine to have people who aren't in the
Yeah.
championship picture because
Yeah.
at least it's expanded and everyone has the opportunity. But
Oh yeah,
but
yeah,
it does feel like
absolutely.
you should just have conference champions as playoff people.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Many thanks to Paul Bear for subscribing with Prime for his 8th month. Thank you very much. And
That's Pud. Hope you're doing well, Pud.
there we go.
You play football.
And Mike the Marine saying, no, sorry, there's a question about the Lions draft. I guess we're not doing college live at the moment. But 4 draft picks in the top 100. Who's your way too early favourites for the Lions in the top 100?
I mean, I know who I want, but what I want and what we get are 2 completely different things. So who knows at this moment in time? If
I say who my number 1 guy is, Ash will get excited. So maybe I shouldn't say.
Oh, is it Jared?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a sort of player that I kind of feel like might fall to the back end of the first, and I think you've got to jump all over that if he's available. Even though I'd love to go corner number 1.
Yeah, we'll see. You all right, Ryan?
Yeah, fine. Yeah.
Joshua Mercer saying, "Do you guys ever do CBB podcasts? I presume that is college baseball."
No.
No. What's CBB?
Basketball.
I think it's basketball, isn't it?
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't do any basketball. It's shit.
No
disrespect to anyone, I hate it.
It's basketball.
All I know is the Pistons are on their longest ever losing streak at the minute. That's all I know.
College basketball, the powerhouses are what? Duke
and
Kentucky,
Villanova.
Duke and Kentucky, Villanova.
Michigan State are pretty good at basketball, aren't they?
Michigan State are good, yep. Arizona, Xavier.
Gonzaga?
Gonzaga. A lot of non-football teams are good at basketball.
Yeah. So, and Kansas. You can't forget Kansas. Kansas good as well.
Right.
All known as there. Right. Okay. We'll get this thing underway. I think everybody's here. So
right. Give me a second and I'll just click record on this because I normally when I upload it do it from here because it's quicker for me.
Yeah. All right. Let me get my thing.
But I'll just click record now and then I'll chop off the front.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
There we go.
What don't Sorry. Oh dear, let's try that again. What up, Don't One Pride? This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, the podcast where one pride goes worldwide. My name is Antony Fitzpatrick. I'm joined by Ryan McCluskey and by Matthew Turner. It is a slightly later date on a Friday, and if you're thinking, which podcast is this? We don't know this one. This is the College Football Podcast, just at the slightly later date in the week because work is getting involved with me. But yeah, we are here. The College Football Podcast is here. Buck-EYYE. We are, and I've been waiting to do that all week because I've been waiting to talk about this. But yeah, Ryan, we are at the end of the season. The regular season is over in college football. For 20 teams now, the opportunity for a championship beckons, and for 8 further teams, everything matters now with the playoffs. The tiniest little mistake and your season goes up in flames.
Yeah, it's been quite an unpredictable season. Lots of teams have made championship games that I didn't think had a sniff. Teams that were looking like they should have cakewalked it and have fallen at the final hurdle. And for me, 7, 8 teams, realistically, that's all I have that can make the playoffs. That I think should be worthy of what happens this weekend. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Like I say, the landscape for a lot of the guys that we're going to see here, we're going to see a lot of potential first-round quarterbacks. We're going to see a lot of players that are playing their last game. And as Matt has mentioned, like I say, we're about to see the playoff landscape. This is the last true college playoff. Next year, for me, it gets very much watered down, and I don't like it. I'm not happy with expansion. This is the last year that a true king will be remain and unearthed. Next year, they'll let the jesters in.
As Ryan says, this is the last year of a 14 college football playoff, so there is a lot at stake here. 8 teams that can still make it going into championship week, which is a very rare feat indeed. And we are also joined this evening by Matthew Turner. And I feel like this is a very poignant episode for Matt to come and join us, because there was a certain game played last weekend, a game that 2 years ago he traveled across the Atlantic to go and see live. The team that never won the game won the game. And since he went to see the game, they've never lost the game. So is it voodoo magic? Did you place a hex on the Ohio State Buckeyes? What was it that you did when you were over there that precipitated this change in Michigan's fortunes?
I mean, as someone who has Michigan sympathies, but not necessarily a Michigan fan, I really don't know what I did. I mean, I don't have any skin in the game, but Michigan have gone on a tear ever since, so I can only take all of the credit. Thank you very much.
There you go. If you're a Michigan Wolverines fan, thank Matt, because since he came to see you play the game, you haven't lost it. That's 3 in a row, and we really appreciate it. But we got a lot to go through this evening. There's going to be a lot of news. Some we will divert back to next week, because we've started a bit later this week, and there's been that much going on that we will do an extra show sort of devoted to it. But we're going to go through some news. Going to go through all the playoff ramifications for the FCS and the FBS. We're going to look back at the games last week, and then we're going to take a look ahead at championship week. I said, if you've got anything you want to ask us on the way through, just let us know. Matt's in there as well as me, so we will get to it. And me and Ryan will also, as we're discussing the championship games, we will remind you of our predictions preseason, because, you know, we're not scared to hide behind our predictions. And boy, oh boy, I've got a lot of crow to eat this week. But yeah, let me just get the housekeeping out of the way very quickly. ROTL UK Discord, if you want in on that, let us know, and we shall fire out a link there for you. The main podcast, as Matt said earlier in the intro, we had TJ on from, which publication is it again, Matt?
He's the State of the Saints podcast.
State of the Saints podcast with us yesterday to discuss the upcoming Lions Saints game. Check that out. Check him out as well. He's very unbiased when it comes to his teams, and he'll let you know exactly what he thinks of the Saints. But it was good stuff there. Don't forget to like and sub to everything. Don't forget about Lions Nation Unite, Herman Moore's pet project to bring together the best in Lions content creators on YouTube. And don't forget, we're an affiliate. We're monetized on YouTube, and we've got a tip jar, so if you want to help us that way, great, but we just love having you in the building. And we've got a feedback form as well, so anything you want to change about the shows, want to see in, just fill it in, and we will go through with that. And don't forget, we got the merch store as well. You can see us all rocking various bits week to week, and we've got more and more people getting bits for us, so we appreciate that. Thank you ever so much. Right. Let's dive down into the news. We're going to go through a few bits this week. We're going to save some for next week, but it sort of ties in to the next segment, so I'm going to go in there. But the FBS is going to get another new team in 2025. So following their acquisition of Sam Houston and Jacksonville State this year, and with the imminent arrival of Kennesaw State in 2024, Conference USA has now got itself another FCS team on the way in the form of the Delaware Fighting Blue Hens. And I already love them because of the name. They currently play in the Coastal Athletic Association, or CAA, in the FCS. The school has been getting ready to make the jump. They've invested $60 million into upgrading their Delaware stadium. A further $85 million is committed to building new practice facilities to go with it. They are going to be the first team who are subject to the new price tag to transition to the FBS. It used to be, I think it was $10,000, but now it is $5 million to make the trip up. However, teams are going to make that up in TV revenue, and they will see the benefits of that sooner rather than later. But Ryan, this is yet another team. We're seeing them flood in bit by bit. We've seen Jacksonville State really take to the FBS. Of course, we've seen James Madison do it. Sam Houston have even finished off the season pretty well. It's a new trend, and we've got some Fighting Blue Hens coming up to the FBS.
It's very interesting because I thought the NCAA changing those rules was to, one, obviously they're greedy guts and gobble up extra money, but to put off teams that they thought weren't ready or shouldn't make the jump up or just feasibly couldn't stump up the cash to actually make it happen. So I'm very surprised to see a team do it basically within a few months of them making that announcement. So it's very brave. Let's say you're staking a large amount of money here like I say, bringing up facilities well up to scratch. But I applaud it. Like I say, this Conference USA is getting better. It's another good addition. I believe in 2021, 2022, they went 8-5. Last year, they went 9-3. This year, they came, I think, 4th or 5th as well, in the Colonial CAA. So they're a good team. Like I say, they've been in playoff contention last couple of years. They've been around hovering, trying to get to that double-digit win mark. And Delaware, it's a big state, like I say, and for such a big state, it deserves to have a top-tier football team. So, yeah, they've seen the liking success of Liberty, JMU, Jacksonville State. That in the last 2-3 years have come up and they've taken to life pretty quickly. Sam Houston, terrible first start to the season, but like I say, last 3 or 4 games of the season, they kind of found their feet. So them, Kennesaw State, we're definitely going to see only the teams that really think that they can, one, make the money back from the TV rights in the conference, actually win games, get to a bowl game. They're the only teams now that really won't be put off by such an extortionate application price. It'd be interesting to see how that's divvied up. Yeah. Do any of the teams in conference do they get a slice of that? Does it all go to the CUSA?
We'll have to check. I'm not sure because obviously it was such a small figure before. I just assumed it went to the NCAA itself for whatever it uses its money for.
I'd like to think with such a big price tag now, they're putting it to good use, but
yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Hiring some more competent rule creators will be a good one for them. So hopefully they can afford a few more of those. Interesting thing about it, obviously, we don't do politics on the pod. We just do football here, but it is the alma mater of the current United States of American president, Joe Biden. So yeah, his alma mater is now in the FBS. But it's interesting. I wanted to segue into this because obviously we talked about the FCS playoffs very briefly there. You were the guy who keeps the eye on what is going on down there. It was the first round of the FCS playoffs the weekend just gone, and Delaware featured in that. And I watched a little bit this week and there was some surprising scores, but what happened in the first round of the FCS playoffs?
Yeah, it was a busy weekend, so I made notes. So Mercer faced Gardner-Webb in the first round in quite a tight affair. The Mercer came out on top 17-7, and their prize is going to number 1 South Dakota State. So they get a second round trip to the best team in the nation. The next game, the Penguins, Youngstown State, they didn't just beat Duquesne, they whipped them 40-7. So that was a bit of a shellacking, unfortunately, a one-sided affair. And their result will take them to number 8 Villanova. And they might like their chances there of potentially taking down a ranked side. Unfortunately, Davius Richards and NC Central's their first playoff, they bow out. They lost to the Richmond Spiders 49-27. So we won't see the quarterback that we know that the HBCU guys love and rave about, unfortunately. And Richmond will now take on number 5 Albany, one of my favourite teams because they're the Great Danes. They need to be in the FBS with a football team named that good. Southern Illinois, I believe they're the Salukers. And their badge is some kind of like wolf or husky. It's some kind of like maned dog. They beat Nicholls State 35-0. They got blanked, unfortunately. They will then go to Fort Idaho. The Vandals had a very good year this year. Came into the playoffs very strong. Yep. As we mentioned, Delaware. So the Fighting Blue Hens squeaked past a champion. So Lafayette, who stopped the 5 or 6 year run of Holy Cross winning the Pioneer League, Delaware defeated them 36-34. So they're trying to win a national title before making the trip up. And their trip next to be in the round 2, they will go to number 2 Montana, the team I picked to win the FCS playoffs. The Grizz are undoubtedly a powerhouse, so that'll definitely be one of the games to watch. Next game, Chattanooga. They beat Austin Peay 24-21, and they will be rewarded with a game against number 7 Furman. We've then got North Dakota State. So a weird season for them. Didn't make the playoffs ranked. Really struggled. Came up against Drake, and Yeah, they beat them 66-3 in the first round of the playoffs. That was a strong Drake team that went 8-3. And NDSU also got my performance of the week. So they rushed for 318 yards on 51 carries, 6 touchdowns, just an average 6.24 yards a carry, and nearly 11 people had a touch. So it was a true death by fire on the ground, unfortunately, for Drake. But yep, the Bison, I wouldn't rule them out just because they weren't ranked this year. They're still out there to show that they're the big and best team in the FCS. They will now go to play last year's darlings, the Sweethearts, Montana State Wildcats, and that will be probably the tie of the round. They made the championship game last year, and they're picking up against one of the powerhouses. And the last week one game might have been the best, actually. So Sacramento State, they beat North Dakota 42-35, and they will set up a tie with number 3, South Dakota. So Sac State v South Dakota is the final round 2 game, which should be this weekend. But yeah, some very interesting results. But yeah, Delaware already making money back on that $5 million they've spent marching into the second round of the playoffs. And if they could actually make a run in the playoffs, that would be quite a remarkable thing to do before making a jump up. It'd be a bit of a fairy tale moment for them, I think, capping off their end in the FCS.
Yeah, there was, like you say, there was some unfortunate ends. Davius Richard, I know the guys, he had, 3 rushing touchdowns and a passing touchdown. He went down in a ball of flames, so he did really well, so I'm glad with that. But there were some big ones. Mercer, that was their first ever win in the FCS playoffs, wasn't it? So
yep.
That's a big win for them. And then is it North Dakota State now tie Georgia Southern for most ever FCS playoff wins? Obviously, Georgia Southern now up in the FBS many years, so they're probably going to take that record going into the weekend, going into this weekend now. No, is there any dark horses you see emerging out of this first week now that you think maybe they might get a bit further than I thought?
I was quite surprised that Delaware did beat Lafayette, if I'm perfectly honest. Lafayette stealing a division away from Holy Cross, that was quite impressive. And they were very good throughout the entire regular season. So they beat them at the first hurdle. So yeah, I didn't know a lot about the Fighting Blue Hens, but that's quite a good scalp. So they're definitely a team to watch as well.
Absolutely love that name, Fighting Blue Hens. It's just the best in the world. Did you have any chance to watch any of the FCS stuff, Matt? Obviously, I don't want to disclose you from this.
But, no, don't worry. You carry on.
That's fine. So that is the latest there of the FCS games. So obviously the next lot take place this week, and then is it the quarterfinals weekend after this? So we're trimming them down. We'll know who all the contenders are next week. Ryan will keep us updated on that, and then we'll go into the FBS playoffs whilst we're here. And obviously Buck-EYYE and MI mentioned at the start of the show about Ohio State, about the path through into the playoffs for all these teams. Now, obviously, we'll talk about team-specific games in Week 13 a little bit later, but there are still 8 teams who can make the FBS playoffs, which is probably, it feels like it's the most it's been in a very long time at this point. So we've got everybody from, so ranked currently, it's Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Washington 3, Florida State 4, Oregon 5, Ohio State 6, Texas 7, Alabama 8. So in terms of teams' routes through into the playoffs, for a couple of them, it's very easy. For Georgia, you win, you're in for sure. For Michigan, you win, you're in. For Washington, you win, you're in. Then it's where it starts to get a little bit complicated. So we've got Florida State, Oregon, Texas, Alabama, 3 of them potentially one-loss conference champions. Florida State potentially an unbeaten champion in the ACC this year. However, the strength of schedule concerns are there with them, which could be an issue. And Ohio State are obviously relying on a lot to go their way. They would need at least 3 of the teams above them possibly to lose, and then try and get in on their strength of schedule, which is a little bit better than Michigan's, although they've got the defeat to them there. But, guys, there's so much that can happen this week. The very big question, if Alabama beat Georgia and it's a very close game, Do Georgia still get in the 4 spot? Will they allow them in possibly over the likes of a Florida State, an unbeaten champion, or a one-loss Power 5 champion like Texas? These are the questions. I don't know. How do you guys feel about the playoffs going in? Right, I'll go with you first, then I'll come to Matt. What are we thinking going into this week? What do you reckon is going to happen? Because I know you've been calling the Alabama upset, but do Georgia still get in? How do you see the committee going?
Well, luckily for Georgia, they play in the SEC. And for me, SEC bias, it's real. It's a thing. It don't make me happy, but it's always been there and it won't go away. Now, another team that wins in, I think, is Oregon. If Oregon upset Washington, who have already beaten them and have a potential Heisman quarterback, well, they've both got potential Heisman quarterbacks. I think if Oregon win, I put them straight into 4, to be honest. I count them saying that, but I'd be very surprised it'd be hard to keep them out. I would like to see Georgia kept out if Alabama win. I'm predicting the Alabama win right now. I think the Crimson Tide and Nick Saban have got hot right at the end of the season. I don't think they're the better team, but I just think momentum is a real thing. I don't see any way Ohio State make it, I'm honest. Because if Iowa beat Michigan, that just tells me that the Big Ten is a dump. I mean, I know the Big Ten's a dump, but it just discredits everything that everyone's done, doesn't it? So for me, Ohio State are out. The difficult one is Texas. Like I said, they win the Big 12. A few things go their way, kind of in the hat. And then, yeah, Florida State. Like I said, I felt bad saying it last week, but no one wants to see a Rodemaker FSU in the playoffs. The moment John Travis went down for me, FSU's hopes kind of went up in smoke. Even if they beat Louisville, I still don't give them 4, even as an unbeaten Power 5 champion. And that's probably me being harsh. That's bias. But I can genuinely see a scenario where Alabama is 1, Michigan is 2. Whoever wins out of Oregon and Washington is 3, and potentially Texas is 4. That sounds fun, and I think it's realistic.
I mean, it's just such a convoluted thing. Because everyone goes with Ohio State. Well, one loss, maybe they can get in. But what if Washington lose? Like, their resume and their strength of schedule is much better, and they're a one-loss team as well. You think in the one-loss team pile, Washington would still be above them. But I don't know, Matt, what do you think about this? Because obviously there's so many permutations, like, Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, Washington. If Alabama win and Texas win, Texas have one loss to an SEC champion. That is it on their resume, and they have won a Power 5 title. It's like, that's very hard to keep out. But then you've got Georgia, who have not lost in 29 games. There are so many different scenarios here. I don't know, how do you see it sort of playing out if like the really messed up sicko scenarios happen?
And I think it could happen. I'm pulling for it just to see the chaos. I don't know. Texas is a really weird one, right? Because they beat Alabama, and that's huge. But they lost to Oklahoma. They didn't look great against K-State. They looked poor against Houston. They looked poor against TCU. Like, they have ground out some of these games. And, their strength of schedule has been reasonable, but they've not looked good in their wins. So I don't know about Texas. Okay, fine, beat Oklahoma State and see what happens. But I think they're on the outside looking in, to be honest, even with beating Alabama. And I'm with Rye. If Alabama win, I want Alabama at least above Georgia. I don't think that they'd rise to 1 in the rankings just because I don't think they'd put a one-loss Alabama over an unbeaten Power 5 side. I just don't think they'll do that. But if I had to put it... So Michigan, I think, are going to end up 1 because I think Alabama are going to pull the upset. I think Michigan 1, Alabama 2. And then I think Washington will be Oregon for 3. I agree with Rye that I don't think Florida State get in unless they get help by other teams losing beneath them. I think Florida State get in if Washington beat Oregon. Oh, did they put Ohio State in over Florida State? Maybe. So Texas... So an unbeaten champion in Florida State over a one-loss Georgia or a one-loss Texas,
Who've won a championship?
who've won a championship, or a one-loss Ohio
Mm,
State. That's
not for
such a
me.
horrible choice. I feel bad excluding Florida State, but I just don't see any way they get it. So yeah, Georgia. I guess in that sort of sicko scenario, maybe sneak in as 4. And I mean, how fun would it be actually to have Alabama jump to 1, Georgia fall to 4, and then that's the semi-final?
Do it again.
Yes, I love it.
This is the problem I have, is that Alabama are ranked 8th right now. Jumping them up straight to 2nd because they win one game. I feel like there's a pecking order here. I would put in Alabama at 4. Even if they won, I will put them in at 4. Because I think you'd have to put Texas in at 3, and then you'd have Washington and Michigan at 1 and 2. But that gives you the Michigan-Alabama game, which I would love. I would actually love to see that. Michigan are at the peak of their powers. Okay, you go and take down the guy who's ruled college football for God knows how many years now. But
As long as Ohio State don't make the top 4, I will be happy with any combination. Because I think it's just going to be fun. As long as they're not there, I will be happy.
Ohio State got their pass last year. For me, I would like to see the best teams there. I think you're going to have Michigan, Washington, or Oregon. I mean, hell, if the wrong results go, you could put Washington and Oregon in there theoretically, but I don't know if.
Well, I mean, so would you put if Michigan somehow conspires to lose, which I don't think anyone thinks is going to happen, but just say it happens, would you put in Oregon over Michigan?
Oh
no.
No.
That's where I'm at. So I think Michigan are in no matter what. Even if they lose, I think Michigan are in.
Yeah, I think so. But SEC bias.
Yeah,
I mentioned it.
true.
SEC bias is playing. This is it. There are so many weird things that could happen, but there are 8 teams who could potentially get in. So we'll see with that on the weekend. We'll discuss the championship games again later, but let us move it on for now. The only other quick little bit of news I wanted to get out the way this week just concerns the Pac-2, the newly coined Pac-2. It's just going to be Oregon State and Washington State next year. They've created a temporary alliance with the Mountain West moving into next season in an effort to fill out their schedule. So Mountain West teams will play 7 divisional fixtures plus 1 additional fixture against either Oregon State or Washington State. They will not count towards their divisional standing. So essentially, it's going to be another non-con fixture. There'll be 7 division fixtures, 5 non-cons for the Mountain West next year. Pac-2 is paying $14 million to the Mountain West to allow this to happen next year, right? I mean, this just feels... It's temporary. It feels like maybe an audition for Oregon State and Washington State to find themselves a new home next year before the Pac officially dies. Or do you think they are trying to keep it going by integrating the Mountain West?
Nah, it's dead. This is desperation. Imagine paying those minnows $14 million just for the courtesy of hosting them. Like, unfortunately, this is what happens because they dragged their feet. ASU, Arizona State, and everyone got the Big Ten, and now these two are stuck in it's purgatory. They've got there's no TV deal. Like, they're showing Pac-12 games on their YouTube channel. They're basically paying them for free because no one wanted to pay them to watch it. The Mountain West has got a good deal with CBS. The Mountain West Conference might take them because they're big names, but they don't want to be in the Mountain West. But they might have to end up there because they were the last to jump out of the sinking ship. They were the quartet. They're now basically they're just the violinist and the singer on the Titanic. There's 2 of them left, and it's going under. So I think this is their punishment for being too slow, not reacting, and trying to save something that can't be resuscitated. I've accepted it. The Pac-12 is dead. It's over as of next year. They'll both find new homes. They should have already have deals in place. The Mountain West is literally doing them a favour, saying, we'll take your money and we'll play you. And we'll probably beat some of you as well. Some of you, we will cause some upsets. So the Mountain West right now is laughing all the way to the bank. It's a very sorry state what's happened to the Pac-12, but it's never been that good. I kind of saw it coming a long time ago. Viewers numbers just work great. The future of where they've all moved to, the future will be brighter for all of them in the long term.
I just feel like they should have gone independent. Go as independents, get yourself some nice flashy games, because as an independent, there are a lot of teams that will put you on the schedule, especially the really good ones, to bump up their strength of schedule. You may get some good fixtures out of that, but yeah, it's just a holding mechanism for 1 year for them to be able to get new deals. So we will see with them, but yeah, I think some Power Five conference is going to snap them up next year, and that'll be that, and it's done. Although Matt seems to disagree.
No, I don't think so at all. The most valuable thing that they have... The reason these guys haven't jumped ship is because they believe the name, the brand, and the guaranteed playoff spot is worth something. They are hanging on to dear life for the idea that the intangible asset of win this conference and you're in the playoffs is worth a lot more money to them than it is to jump ship a year early. You got to believe that this is just a little makeshift deal while they're continuing to work behind the scenes to sell... I mean, probably the Mountain West on becoming the Pac 14, is it? The Mountain West is 12?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we become the Pac 14. That's got to be their plan. And if that doesn't happen, then to try and absorb another conference into the Pac name. And, I mean, the great thing about them having no TV deal is that the TV deal they did have was shit, as Ryan has rightly pointed out. But that just means that they're free now to kind of design exactly what they want it to look like. I think this could be a real Phoenix from the Flames moment for the Pac, where, I mean, they've been a disaster territory, where actually it's been one of the best conferences in football this year, but no one's watching it. And now they can transition into being a product that actually people can easily watch at a reasonable price and get great football again on the West Coast. I think it could be a really positive step for them. If they become independent, they lose out completely on jumping ship first. So they've got to hold on to what they have.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see it in a way that we did pontificate that maybe that could be something that they try and do, but or maybe it's just another year, like you say, to buy themselves opportunity to try and get more teams in, because there's going to be a lot of saturated Power 5 conferences now. Maybe teams are going to want out. Who knows? Maybe Notre Dame will commit. We don't know. But yeah, that is what is going on with them this year. Right, that's all the news we're going to do. There have been loads of coach hirings, firings. We will go through that next week when that market is settled down. The transfer portal is open, and nearly every QB has gone in there as well. So we will try and make sense of that at a bit of a later date when guys start committing. So let us jump into the week 13 review. So obviously last week of the regular season. It is rivalry week for a lot of teams. Some rivalries may want to talk about this less than others. I will spare Ryan this week. The Cup is not coming back Arizona State's way there, but a lot of other good rivalries were decided. But the first game of them all, there's only one game to talk about. It's the last week of every season. It is the game. It is in the title of the show. The Buck-EYYE once again coming short against the Michigan Wolverines. They are the team that we all knew and thought that they were going to be. Ohio State 24, Michigan 30, in a game which, for parts, they were able to stick around into the third quarter. But when you're a more physical team like Michigan, you sort of wear them down, you break the trenches, and you go on and secure the win. Blake Corum, he started the scoring off, a run for 1 yard after 10 minutes. It took a while for this game to get going, actually. It was a 4th and goal. Thought Ohio State had stopped it. Blake Corum runs in from 1 yard out. Ohio State can only respond with a field goal. Michigan then go up by a touchdown again. McCarthy to Roman Wilson for 22 yards. It's 14-3 pretty early. But give Ohio State the credit. They did fight back. Emeka Egbuka becoming a really great receiver on that Buckeyes team. He got touchdown from 3 yards, passed by Kyle McCord. That finished off the first half. It's 14-10 to Michigan. Michigan get a field goal to start the third. But then Travion Henderson pulls it level at 17-all, 3-yard touchdown run with 5 minutes left in the third. But this is where Michigan then start to pull out in from. Blake Corum, again, 22 yards this time. Man is a monster. Just scored a bucket load of touchdowns for the Wolverines this year. Another field goal, this time from 38 yards from James Turner. The gap is 10 at this point. Cal McCord finds the effervescent Marvin Harrison Jr. from 14 yards for a touchdown. You're thinking maybe they can get back into this. But another field goal from Michigan, and finally Kyle McCord is picked off on the last drive, just as Ohio State are going to try and nick the win out of this. Ryan, it's closer than the last 2 games have been here, but once again, 3 years in a row, after all the posturizing, all the beating up on the weaker teams in the Big Ten, Ohio State just turned out to be the fraudulent team that we thought they were. They just didn't have the juice to take Michigan over the line.
No, it's weird as well. Close in the last few years, but this is by far a worse Ohio State team. I think this is the worst Ohio State team of the last 3 games that they've met. I think Kyle McCord, he's not good enough. You've got to go and replace him this year. I reckon they go into the portal and they throw money at someone miles better. And I've already seen a few enter that are better than Kyle McCord. But yeah, receiving core, it can't ever be stopped. Like I say, Julian Fleming, super high recruit, but he's had to struggle because he lives in the shadow of, like I say, Igbuka, Marvin Harrison Jr. For me, Trayvon Henderson, I've never been enamored with him. I've always felt like what lets the Buckeyes down is a run game, a consistent run game. And that's something that Michigan, well, they've always hung their hat on. They've always had a 2 strong back set. And it showed at this game, like I said, because when they were called upon, Corum was key, especially in the red zone. The Buckeyes defense, like I say, to say everyone raves about guys like Eichenberg and the safeties in the back of the D-line, kind of carved up by the run game. Like I said, they were not good at stopping the run, and it would eventually be the downfall. It was better than the last couple of years. Like I say, they did do a good job of stemming the bleed. Like I say, between the second and third quarter and striking back, they were efficient in the red zone, but you see the fragility on that, say, potential game-winning drive or game-tying drive, where it makes one too many risky throws, pushes a ball into a window that shouldn't be there, and a good interception. And there's a lot of players in this game that I do like going into this class, going into the draft. I think they're going to do really well, but yeah, it's never been one of my favourite rivalries. It is off the field because watching them on Twitter like go at each other like Tom and Jerry is hilarious. They're just goofy. The game never seems to live up to it though. It always feels a bit of a damp squib to say it's called the game. It was probably like the 7th best rivalry of the week. Like it's just one of those ways where it doesn't live up to it. But this is how the season deserved to end. Michigan have just rolled over everyone. Like I say, they are by far the big dog in the Big Ten, and they did show them grit their teeth again. So yeah, they deservedly won because, like I say, complementary offense and defense, and better in the red zone, more efficient.
And speaking about reasons why teams maybe shouldn't make the playoffs, Ohio State refusing to publish the score on their Twitter should automatically ban them from the playoffs. The cowards. They did not. They bigged it up and then they went radio silent afterwards. So that
also didn't they punt on like a 4th and 2?
Yeah,
was it like the 50-yard line?
Yeah, there was.
You don't need to do a report to came back as cowardly. Yeah, because the game was on the line.
Yeah, I don't think the cowardly punt index sadly doesn't do college football. I don't think, but it would have been right up there. But this was a really different game. Obviously, Matt, you have been to the Big House. You were there the last time this game was played. You know the psychological impact it'll have on players. This Ohio State team, they came in, they were running their mouths, they were dancing before the game, they were very cocky. Ryan Day is always a lot to say on there. You watched this game. How did you take it? Because you've seen one live. Was this different to what you saw before, or was it just the same type of ass kicking, but just a slightly smaller scoreline?
I mean, I don't think it was an ass kicking. I watched this game, and when Michigan take the field goal late with a minute to play, there's a 3rd and 6, and they run it for 2. And all that went into my head is, why are Michigan the Chicago Bears? Like, why on 3rd and 6, needing a first down to win the game, are you running the ball to kick a field goal so you can be 6 points ahead with a minute to play and timeouts on Ohio State's clock? And then what do Ohio State do? They go down and march down the bloody field. Like, Ohio State have 1st and 10 with 25 seconds left on the Michigan 37, touchdown and a PAT to win the game. There's no Michigan fan out there who would have felt comfortable during that. Like, Michigan played not to lose in the end. And maybe that is what happens when Jim Harbaugh is not calling the plays on the sideline. Potentially. But I felt like they got away with it a little bit. And Michigan's defense played great all game. I thought they were really, really good. But Michigan were terrible in the first half, and they could not get the run game going whatsoever. I mean, this was scoreless through the first 5 possessions. And, you know, it was a kind of ebb and flow sort of game. And coming out of it, I really think that Michigan fans should feel like they got away with one. Because you both have adequately said that Ohio State is the worst iteration it's been in the last 3 years of this game. Well, I think that says a lot about Michigan when they only win by 6 here and really could have lost the game. That's how I feel about it. But I think the Michigan fans walking into this game might have thought, don't worry, guys, we've got this one. And then you hear Ryan Day talking a big game just before it going, yeah, we're prepared to win. We've done everything we can. We're winning this game. No doubt about it. And it's like, that is the talk of a man who knows that if you don't win this game, you're getting sacked. And Ryan Day is getting sacked. Definitely. Like, he's out. He will be.
I mean, that's a question I'm going to ask in a minute, but, you know, we say Michigan look different, and they, you know, what are the 2 things we know Michigan for? We know them for the run game, and we know them for the defense, which is amazing. But defense in this game, there was a lot not there. So, in terms of, there were 3 tackles for loss in this entire game between both teams. There were only 2 sacks in this game between the 2 teams. The stop rate on defense, 18% for Ohio State, 20% for Michigan. This was one where the defenses weren't able to garner much pressure on the quarterback, which we know both these teams for. You know, they get a lot of sacks, they get a lot of pressure. Didn't happen in this game, whether it's just good offensive line play, I don't know. But then with the running game, I mean, Michigan, it was just 160 yards for them on the day, only 106 from Ohio State. Ryan mentions they struggled to run the football. They threw for 267, only rushed for 106. But Michigan ran without the best run game, and Corum did it when he needed to. And they did it when the defense also wasn't as efficient as it usually is, because we've seen them absolutely annihilate the quarterbacks of the past. You think about what CJ Stroud had to go through the last 2 years. Man was like, you know, he was a magnet, and he was attracting edge rushers who were killing him. They won differently this year. It felt to me like they won different. The scoreline might have been less, but some of their best tendencies were taken away and they still won. I feel that makes them really dangerous.
Yeah, I can definitely see the argument for it. I mean, I know that Karma Cord isn't very good, but the Ohio State offense hummed when it wanted to as well. Like, when you've got to cover Marvin Harrison and Cade Stover, and I know Emeka Egbuka didn't have his best game, but, you know, the Ohio State team has weapons, so Michigan to hold up like they did, I think, was a reasonable performance on that side of the ball. But, yeah, I buy what you're selling.
Yeah. You mentioned it there. So, Ryan Day, now this is 3 years in a row he has lost a game, and everyone goes, oh, he's perfect against the rest of the Big Ten. I think me and you said this when they lost last year, that he should be fired if he loses it a 3rd time, because your one job as an Ohio State head coach is to beat Michigan. In this iteration of the Big Ten, when there's no one else competing for it right now, like, you're both going to go unbeaten, you're both going to get to the final week. It happened last year. You write a check and you don't cash it, and you might have the best record in the world. He has a really good record at Ohio State, but if you can't win when it matters, what's the point? Is this where they should part ways with him now, or does that record keep him in his job?
If Ohio State don't make the playoffs because something kind of weird happens after doing, if they make the playoffs, he'll be retained for that, and then the outcome will determine. If they don't make the playoffs, yeah, I'd fire him. I think the problem is that, yeah, the bar for him is set. It's pretty much a given in it what he has to achieve, and he's really yet to do it. What actually has he done with the Buckeyes? Sent a lot of players to draft, but they haven't really established any sort of dominance in the Big Ten. And as you say, outside of Michigan and sometimes Penn State, the Big Ten is there for taking every single year. But they're getting further away from taking it, not closer. He's got one job, and yet he ain't doing it. So getting a good bowl game to Ohio State fans don't mean anything because they want to win everything. Like I say, it's not a run-up prize that'll just keep him in the job long. And unfortunately, with teams that have the highest expectations, they will not keep you long. How long will Ole Miss keep Lane Kiffin? Probably not very long. Wins loads of games, but he's not doing anything. He's just treading water. And right now, Ryan Day is treading water. And someone's going to throw him a pool noodle, but it's going to have a P45 attached to it, unfortunately. But I don't know who can do the job better. That's the thing.
I also think that he actually might even be praying for it a little bit himself, because if you have a look at who Ohio State are going to lose, they're losing Marvin Harrison, they're going to lose probably Travion Henderson's coming out, I would presume. Going to lose Tommy Eichenberg, going to lose Michael Hall, JC Tuamalu, I think is probably going to come out as well. Like, this Ohio State team is continuing to get worse. And I know that college is all about refreshment, you bring through your sophomores and whatever, but I don't see them being better than this year, even if they bring in a better quarterback. How can this team live without Marvin Harrison? Like, he's been basically their entire offense. Cade Stover's is going to stick around for one more year, right? He can't come out yet. But yeah, okay, he's going to have to be the offense next year. Good luck with that.
I agree. I think he's done. You can't win that, then you've got to go. You've got to have a purpose to your program, and he doesn't add a purpose to that program. None of his teams have been tough. Like, they're not Michigan tough. Like, Harbaugh has them trained, has them disciplined, and has them ready to win games the hard way. And Ryan Day doesn't. They win flamboyantly. They win with finesse, but when the chips come down, it's tough. I mean, you've already given your answer to this, but I'm guessing Day gone for you, Matt. Yeah, gone. As on the other side, so Michigan, lot of rumors that Jim Harbaugh is heading, and I think I've seen this in the YouTube chat, that he's heading to the NFC North, possibly sometime soon, with the Chicago Bears. And I just want to say...
No, he's not.
The talks have been there. I believe there has been some initial contact, but I would just like to say, a personal point of view, if he went there and then used that Bears #1 pick to draft JJ McCarthy, it would make me the happiest boy on the planet. Because it would just be such a terrible move to make. No offense to JJ, he's not worth that pick, but Harbaugh would do it. He said he's Andrew Luck, so you spend the #1 pick on Andrew Luck, it would be hilarious, but not moving. Is he staying there, do you reckon, Ryan?
I think Paul's a bit... He'd go past brave to stupid. Harbaugh's buyout is massive. Like I say, and all that cap is just spent on underperforming players to then get a GM to go throw all that money and get Jim Harbaugh, who then will definitely replace Justin Fields, because Jim Harbaugh won't want out to do with Justin Fields, I reckon. He'll instantly replace him. It seems like it'd be chaos. I just can't see it happening. Although I think he'd make them better. I think it'd be the right move for on the field. I think he would make a potential success of them. I'd hate to see it, but I don't see it happening.
Guessing you don't think that one's going to happen, Matt?
No, I mean, I do see him moving up, but I don't see him picking the Bears. I see him being one of the bigger draws of the hiring cycle, alongside Ben and Mike McDonald. I think that Jim Harbaugh will be like number 2 or 3 on a lot of people's lists. I really see him going to the Raiders. I just can see that happen. Like, I think that makes all the sense in the world. Their cap situation's fine. Elite pass rusher in there. #1 wide receiver already ready to go. Not a great record. Might be in a position to draft JJ McCarthy in a reasonable spot, considering where the Raiders are. I think that makes so much more sense than the Bears.
Need a complete culture reset, though. Is he going to do... I know he can reset a culture, but...
Oh, hang on a minute. Hard-nosed bastards. Sorry, is that not what Michigan are right now? That's what the Raiders are. I think the culture entirely fits him.
No, I can get that. Okay, well, yeah, I can get that. Anyhow, well done to Michigan. Thank you so much for exposing those frauds from Ohio. We've been waiting for that all season, and it finally happened. Good luck in your game this week. Right, let's move it on because there was a ton of great action this week, and there's only one other place we can go to start this one off, Ryan. Of course, the Iron Bowl ended in the most hilarious of fashions this year. Alabama at Auburn. Alabama 27, Auburn 24. And I think I started watching this when it was halfway through and people said, oh, actually, Auburn are doing pretty good in this one and they're sticking with them. And, we expected Auburn to get blown out. Alabama on a roll. Roydell Williams started this off 2-yard run for a touchdown after just 5 minutes. But Auburn hit right back. Damari Alston, he had a run in from 4 yards to level it up. Alabama start the second off, settling for a field goal. Will Reichard, who's their all-time leading point scorer now for Alabama, got an absolute ton. He hits one from 32 yards, 10-7. Then Auburn take the lead. Javarius Johnson running from 12 yards, and they're 14-10 up. Alabama hit back just before the half. Jalen Milroe to Jermaine Burton, 68 yards for a touchdown, complete busted coverage on that one. But Jermaine Burton's really starting to shine for the Crimson Tide now. Alabama tack on a field goal at the start of the third. They're up by 6. But then Auburn hit back again. Peyton Thorne finds Javarius Johnson for his second touchdown of the day. It's a receiving one this time, 27 yards for a touchdown. They're up by a point. Fourth quarter, and everything goes really quiet. With 10 minutes to go, Auburn get a field goal. Probably should have had a touchdown, but a few penalties on that drive did them in. It was a 4th and goal at the Alabama 4. Bama's defense held up really solidly, but they're 4 points up. And then it gets to the end of the game, and then this is where all the fun stuff happens. So Alabama down in the Auburn red zone with very little time left on the clock at all. No timeouts left. I think it's 1st and goal. They botch a snap, which goes back, which sets them back yardage. They're not able to get anything from that. Then Jalen Milroe makes the biggest boneheaded play in the world, running beyond the line of scrimmage, throwing a pass, which is another penalty, which takes them all the way back to the Auburn 31 from being in the red zone. And then on 4th and goal, last play of the game, they need to defend one pass, and the Iron Bowl is Auburn's. And somehow, with a 99.9% win expectation for Auburn, Alabama convert. Jalen Milroe pass to Isaiah Bond, 31 yards, right into the corner of the end zone. It is a terrific pass from him. And this play is developed for like 10 seconds. It's like, it's not a short thing. He's having to run around, set himself. He finds it. And Alabama, by the hairs of their chinny chin chin chin, keep their playoff hopes alive on the most unlikely play of them all. I mean, Ryan, this is Auburn gonna Auburn. They are never, ever, ever going to be able to forget this Iron Bowl after this. That game should have been theirs, and they let it slip in the most heartbreaking fashion 10 years on after probably one of their other worst heartbreaking losses in this game on the anniversary of it. It's crazy.
It summed up their season because Auburn, yeah, they suck. Peyton Thorne's terrible. The guy will be probably working at an Arby's next year. He's crap. And the fact that they brought him in and thought, you know what, this guy will make us the best Tigers in the nation, that was laughable. But this game also summed up Bama's season in a nutshell. They've been crap most of the season. They have won games by skin of their teeth. They've not been good in the red zone. Their defense at times has been absolutely gashed. They barely put away the likes of USF, teams like that. I say they should have been beaten comfortably. And they put together one of the worst game-ending drives I've seen all season. Like I say, just littered with ridiculous mistakes. Yeah. Botch snap, illegal forward pass, and then capitalize on just dreadful defending. Honestly, defensive coordinator, I'd have fired him the day after. I wouldn't even have let him get back on the bus after the game, to be honest. It's criminal. If we did that, if the Lions did that, I would get a red eye to Michigan. I would hire a bunch of pickpockets like kids, and I'd go beat up Aaron Glenn with a sock and snooker balls, like 4th and 31, like to win the game, like totally inexcusable. Like I said, and Auburn had it, should have won it, but that play proved they didn't deserve it. And yeah, Crimson Tide somehow stay alive. And yet, after watching that, I still think they'll beat Georgia because that would just be such an SEC Nick Saban thing to do. I still think they'll win because it's just the big moments. They know how to win games, don't they? What happens between like quarters 1 and 3? It don't really matter because you can't win the game there and then. You can win it at the end, and they somehow find ways to do that. And that makes them probably the most dangerous team in the country, even if I'm not a Jalen Milroe fan. He's been like top 10, 15. Maybe next year. Next year, he can be the best quarterback in the nation. I think he's got it in him. I've just not seen it. Not yet, but still, yeah. But yeah, the Iron Bowl. The kick six is my favorite ever college football player, and it will always live fondly in my heart because it's just mental. And this ending was just as dramatic, but for all the wrong reasons because it was just all a calamity of errors.
So in 10 years' time, we can expect something equally spectacular to happen at the end of an Iron Bowl as well. I felt like the Iron Bowl really needed this. Like, it needed an open win like this. But the first rule of rivalry week, everything goes out the window. Form goes out the window. Talent goes out the window. Anything can happen on any given day, Matt. And Nick Saban just done a deal with the devil, and he finds ways to win.
An incredible way to finish the game, isn't it? I mean, everyone's seen that play. And, I mean, you know, Auburn drop 9, rush 2 or something, and so he's got all the time in the world, and he's kind of dancing around back there, but he's under no pressure. He's just trying to create himself an angle. What a throw by Jalen Milroe. And the throw he had earlier on in the game as well, 63-yarder or so, was it that you were saying? 68-yarder to Jermaine Burton. That was an absolute dime. You take those two plays out, and Alabama have been ordinary. Like, nothing but ordinary. But strike one in the win column, they move on, they're still alive. You know, 99.9% win percentage for Auburn in that last play. 0.01% chance of Alabama's playoff hopes remaining alive, and they are still here. And that's why Ryan's right. Most dangerous team in the country, because no matter what the odds are, they ain't out until the word final is on that screen, and they've lost. Yeah, and earlier in the season, I mean, doesn't that South Florida game seem as such a long time ago now, where they struggled to put away South Florida like 17-3, and the 3 weeks preceding, I mean, after that, they looked awful. It was like just one good team would beat them, but champions find a way to win, and they consistently do. And Jalen Milroe, I agree with you. I think that there is a guy in there. 14 carries, 109 yards. They are unlocking his dual threat ability, which they didn't do before, but he's also getting better through the air. He's 16 of 24 on the day, 259 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's only sacked once, which helps because Bama's O-line has sucked for a very long time now. Auburn's pass rush was absolutely terrible, and I agree with Ryan, maybe not in such, grotesque way, but if you're rushing 2 on something like that, I think that's cowardly. Go get him and finish it emphatically. Don't just sit there and potentially allow that to happen. Because you make it sound like Mortal Kombat now. Finish him.
Finish him. Yeah, but you do. You've got 2 guys rushing 5 offensive linemen. It's just not going to happen. And all it takes is one guy to slip, one guy to get a run on somebody, and the pass is there. It doesn't matter how many guys you got in coverage. Just go get him. End it. And Auburn, they should be absolutely ashamed of themselves in that. I mean, for the ending. For the rest of it, hey, they did really great. There's stuff to build on there. They ran the ball really well. Nearly 271 yards on the ground for Auburn. They only passed for 93. But against the Bama side, to run nearly 300 yards on them at 7.3 yards a clip is actually really good. So they've got something to build on. Just depends if they can keep their running backs in there. You have 3 of them. You've got Jarquez Hunter. Sure, he's out this year. 93 yards. Damari Alston, 85. Peyton Thorne. They used the quarterback sneak quite good to good effect. The O-line was actually really good. So a very fun game, but absolutely crazy the ending that happened there. So
just watching the play again back now, and so they dropped 8, not 9. I was a fool, I couldn't count, but I'm having a look at the players in the end zone. There's 3 Alabama players around the posts, and there are 6 Auburn defenders. And then both Alabama wide receivers out wide have 1 Auburn player. Why have you double-teamed everyone in the middle and left everyone outside one-on-one? What are you doing? Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
No. It was perplexing, and it's just belittling of a program that's just been, when things are down, and you just start making boneheaded mistakes like that. And, Auburn should have won that game. They didn't. Alabama are still alive, but like I said, in rivalry week, anything happens. And they were not the only team who struggled in rivalry week. And we nearly saw one of the biggest upsets of the week in the Pac-12, in the rivalry game there, the Apple Cup, Washington State. And I mean, Washington State, since the win over Oregon State, they lost out 6 games in a row until they beat Colorado the other week. And they suddenly seem to have come back to life. And Washington, who are not used to being in the playoffs, who are not used to being in these high positions they are now. We said, Rye, last week, they look like they're nervous and they're jittery. And oh boy, in the rivalry game, they were so lucky to come away from this. The defense needed to make a stop right at the end of the game. It was Washington State 21, Washington 24, but they were in a lot of trouble throughout the game here. Cameron Ward and maybe his last start as a Washington State quarterback, he threw for 320 yards, 3 touchdowns, did throw a couple of picks in there, but gave himself a very good account. Michael Penix, his second quiet game in a row. He was 204 yards, 2 touchdowns, threw another pick in there. But Dylan Johnson, he continues to break out for the Huskies, which has been a saving grace for them. He starts it off with a touchdown run. Josh Kelly for Washington State, a 21-yard pass there, levels it up. Washington back in front again. Rome Odunze, guy's going to be a first-round pick next year, and Rye wants him on the Lions. I really kind of want him on the Lions, so he's the name you've got to look for there. 40 yards, he gets that. But they fight back again. Kyle Williams from Cameron Ward levels it up at 14 all. Penix finds Odunze again for his second touchdown of the day. It's 21-14. But Cameron Ward, they hit back. Lincoln Victor gets his next touchdown pass from 8 yards. It's all level. And it takes a walk-off field goal right at the end of the game. Sorry, they had to make a stop to get this. But Grady Gross, who's not been great on the year for Washington, 42 yards out, clutchest kick of the year to stop this going into overtime. Actually, a really good kick that went right down Broadway, I think, if I remember rightly. But we've talked about this Washington team the last few weeks, right? They are looking really nervous, and they don't look like they're playing their most free attacking form of football at the minute. They look like they're getting the jitters, and they look like it's starting to get to them. And this was nearly the biggest upset of the weekend.
Yeah, it's not a good time to suddenly stop doing everything you've done well. Like, I'm worried for them genuinely going into tomorrow. They have not looked good in the last few weeks. And Washington State, like I said, last 5-6 weeks, they've been terrible. After making such a great start, the wheels literally came off the cart. But when the Apple Cup is on the line, you've got to get yourself G'd up. And only one of them started and played most of the game like that. And that was the Cougs. I'm pretty sure Cam Ward will actually, I'm going to say 110% Cam Ward's gone, because he's going to get loads of great offers, and he's going to bigger and better things. This was him putting on a show saying, I want to win the Apple Cup. And also, I know you're all looking at me. I know you've all illegally contacted me, all the boosters, everything's already been reportedly offered. Like, I'm going to put on a show because I'm going to get a really good potential offer out of this. So yeah, he benefited. Everyone benefited from it. And Washington were very lucky. Yeah. Penix has gone off the boil last few weeks. It's just the accuracy, I'd say the the throws, giving people chance to make big plays. It's all kind of like been reined in the last few weeks. Defenses have done a better job against them. The run game, they've been relying on it. Like I say, it's been stop-start, but Johnson, he's been pretty good. But yeah, Washington State came to play because it's their biggest game of the season. Not everyone can get themselves that hyped up for their rivalry game, but the Apple Cup, a lot of people really like it. And they came out and gave a really strong showing. And it's a shame it didn't go overtime because I'm pretty sure, I think Washington would have probably faltered first. I wouldn't have trusted them to outduel them in that kind of format. So, yeah, it's such a bad time to look so out of sorts when Oregon still look really good. And the money line, I kind of understand where they're coming from. Like I say, because in recent times, I've seen one team look better than the other. But I think Washington they'll forget this game. They'll dust themselves off and they'll be ready to go into the title game. But yeah, a very disappointing season for the Cougs. Started so well at like 5-0, and I thought, oh, potential dark horse here. Lost 6 games. I'm pretty sure one of them was to Arizona State as well. And when that loss came in, I was like, yeah, you're a joke. You don't lose to us because we're bad. And then, yeah, ended the season strongly, but they're losing. They're going to lose all their best players. The portal is going to just rinse anyone of proper talent on the draft that anyone's eligible. So I feel sorry for them. It's going to be difficult next year.
I mean, the seniors are going to go everywhere because they'll not be technically playing in a Power 5 conference this year. So anyone with draft aspirations next year will want to stay in the Power 5 on a Power 5 schedule against Power 5 teams, and they're not going to get that. So it's going to be... I just want to think with this Washington team, it's nerves. And now they're going to go against Oregon. They're big underdogs, and maybe now the nerves lift. Maybe we see that. But I don't know, man. Do you see something different with this Washington team? The Heisman winner's coming from this game tonight / in the morning. I'm pretty confident that that's going to happen. But
no,
I know you're the Jaden Daniels fan, so
Jaden Daniels is winning the Heisman. He don't even have to play another game before the bowl game. I think he's got it.
Well, my personal belief is it's going to come from tonight's one. But this Washington team, Matt, they are.
Bo Nix winning.
Yeah, they're looking nervous coming into this season because they've not been in the playoff situation like Oregon have in recent years.
I disagree with all the people you just also have the Heisman, by the way. I'm coming around to a different player.
Don't you dare say JJ to be a Michigan homer. I will not allow that on this pod.
I'll say it in a minute. There was no game that hurt Penix's draft stock as well, but Heisman Trophy chances in this game. He took his shots. It didn't work. Like, he did look jittery. Like, the deep balls that normally work just weren't happening. The early touchdown to O'Dunn's only happened because one of the Cougars fell down. Like, it wasn't like there was any sort of... It was a layup. So, one of Penix's touchdowns was a complete, just easy catch. And then otherwise, he's gone a touchdown interception and almost 50% on completions. Like, it just wasn't a good day. I have to say, the interception by Jaden Hicks was just fantastic. That was really, really good. But on the day... better quarterback lost. Cam Ward looked better. He made a couple of mistakes, but I just thought, there's a guy who's inspiring me. And with Penix, it's been like that most of the year, but he wasn't on that day. And I kind of feel like Washington are going to win because of their defense against Oregon. And that might rule out Bo Nix as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, Cougars gave a good account of themselves, given what's happened to them this season. They've been shown up, like Ryan said, this year. And then to come in rivalry week and run an unbeaten side that hard, I thought it was a good game. Really. One for the neutrals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel vindicated in the Cameron Ward thing now. He's had 2 years at Incarnate Ward, done really well. 2 years at Washington State, done really well. If he gets a big gig next year at a top Power 5 team and does well, I still maintain he's going to be a first-round draft pick next year.
He should go to OSU. I mean, like, if Ryan Day sticks around, Cam Ward, OSU, I can kind of see that working. Like,
can't do that to me. I'd have to hate him, though. I can't do that. I can't. You come to NC State.
Yeah, well, it looks like you're hosting someone else for a visit.
Grayson McCall.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't like that for us.
Oh, no.
But, so my Heisman guy is going to be Marvin Harrison. And I just think if there was any year that it was going to be a wide receiver or a non-quarterback, it's this year. Because none of the quarterbacks do it for me. Not Jaden Daniels, not Penix, not Nix, don't care. We haven't seen a wide receiver like this in college football for a long time.
I don't want him in the NFC North. I'm going to say that now. I said it a few weeks ago. I don't want him anywhere near the NFC North. He is going to be an absolute stud.
No, if they don't give it to if it's either a quarterback award or it's not.
Yeah.
And if it isn't, this is the one year they get to prove it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Washington struggled, but everybody struggled this week, and that extends, believe it or not, to number 1 ranked Georgia, who also really struggled this week. And these are 3 times winners. I mean, sorry, 2. We'll not get ahead of ourselves, but they're 2 times winners of the Natty in recent years, coming up against lowly Georgia Tech. It's their rivalry game at the end of the year. They use as a tune-up for SEC title games. And Georgia Tech gave a really good account of themselves in this game. It ended up Georgia 31, Georgia Tech 23, but they didn't get away in this game until the very end. They did get away. End of the third quarter, it was 31-13 in Georgia's favor, but Georgia Tech came back. There's a field goal to start it off. Haynes King ran it in. It's an 8-point game. Georgia ended up having to make a stand at the end of this game because there was only 8 points. It was only a 1-point game at this point, and they got the ball back. They had an opportunity to win it. Haynes King, Ryan, he looked like an absolute stud in this. I mean, from all that we've sort of joked about with him and his time at Texas A&M and not doing it there, he's found himself a home at Georgia Tech and had the greatest season, but he really showed up here. A couple of rushing touchdowns, no interceptions on the day, looked good. Georgia Tech played Georgia hard. I mean, rivalry week, anything can happen.
The Yellow Jackets have been surprisingly good this year. They've moved to a traditional offense. So when they went and he's their first proper pro-style quarterback for the last couple of years. Before, they've had Jeff Sims and that, guys that they just want to run the triple. They've gone away from it. Haynes King can't run the triple, so they're going proper. Let's run it out of shotgun or pistol. Good to see, and they've come close to causing a few upsets this season. I remember they've pushed some big teams really hard this season, and the future for the Yellow Jackets is bright. Like Georgia Tech, they're recruiting well. They've got a good coaching staff in place. They've had an okay year. And yeah, they took Georgia all the way, made them work really hard for it. And in the end, escaped with one of those where they breathe a sigh of relief. Georgia they weren't great on the day. They did just about enough to squeak by them. But as soon as the game probably ended, they probably forgot about it. As you mentioned, they don't really care about rivalry week. They'd kind of just see it as a scrimmage, a stepping stone to what should be an SEC championship. And that shows in their performance because they don't show their opponents respect. They overlook them. Like I say, they just look past them like it's another game. They're not going to do out to us. And in the end, if they'd have been upset, it would have been pretty embarrassing, actually, if they'd have lost this game. They've had to lick some wounds seriously. But yeah, another one where a good showing by the Yellow Jackets, like I say, hopefully can have a good year next year. Georgia, they won. Wasn't overly impressed by them, but bigger fish to fry. I think that was more on their minds than anything when it shouldn't have been.
Yeah, seems like the kind of mind was focused elsewhere. But again, Matt, this is every team in the top 4 struggling this week, and Georgia are not immune to that. They had their own jitters going into championship week.
And there's no reason why Georgia should have done. This is another reason why they shouldn't be as highly regarded as they are. I know they're on this great win streak, and I mean, I've seen some people talking about Carson Beck as this potential first-round quarterback. What? Really? I can't. I don't know. No.
Not yet.
I don't see it at all. But, the strength of that offensive line, that run game, it's just going to be so hard to break even in their worst moments. And yeah, Georgia Tech, It's the second straight year they've given a good account of themselves in this game, I think, and they're a kind of sneaky good sort of 500 team, and yeah, it was a good game to watch in the end. But there's just something about this Georgia team which just feels a bit inevitable, even when they're playing poorly.
Yeah, and that's it. They've sort of been there and done that, and even when they're not playing well, they're winning games. I've actually grown on Carson Beck this year. There was a lot about him at the start that people questioned, and he started slow, but I think he's looking competent now. I think that's a good thing for him. It's only year one. Going to go into year two next year. Maybe win himself a natty this year. Who knows? But
I mean, so the people over at what is it we subscribe to? Draft Network have been talking about if they win the Natty that he'll be coming out as a first rounder this year. That is what they're talking about for this guy right now. They say if he has a good championship game, going to play as number 1 seed, beats a week number 4, gets to the Natty, wins it, and he plays well through that stretch, he'll come out and he'll be ahead of JJ McCarthy. This is what they're talking about. And I have to think that the Draft Network guys are somewhat more plugged in than I am. But I just, like you said, it's year one. And I don't know, there's just something unremarkable about him. That he's not Stetson Bennett, but, I don't see it with him. He looks gangly and just he looks a bit uncoordinated. I don't like it.
No. Yeah, I know what you mean. There's a lot there that, he's going to take some growing, I think, is the thing there. But yeah, there's a lot of struggles for the teams up at the top. Talking about rivalries, I mean, do we want to quickly mention the Territorial Cup, Rye?
Oh, well.
I mean,
I predicted it, didn't I?
Yeah.
I said the Wildcats had absolutely trounced us, and it was fucking ugly. I knew it would be. They absolutely blasted us.
It was Arizona beating Arizona State 59-23, but
it cost us our LC, but I'm not actually sad about that.
But all jokes aside, because of this, there's been one big storyline at Arizona this year. Jaden DeLaura got hurt.
Fafita.
And Noah Fafita, a freshman, redshirt, I believe, comes in and absolutely destroys opposition on a weekly basis and is keeping Jaden DeLaura out. Here's his line from this game. 30 of 41, 527 yards, 5 touchdowns, and just 1 pick. I believe he had about 430 yards, not even halfway into the third quarter. And he consistently, week in, week out, has been absolutely incredible for a program that never had a quarterback, let alone 2. But Jaden DeLaura is probably going to have to transfer now if he wants to save his draft stock. But for Fafita, this could potentially be a rise of a huge superstar out of left field that we've seen coming from nowhere.
Yep. Jaden DeLaura's days in Arizona are over. You don't replace the hot kid, the new kid on the block, Keen, getting the job back. And I think I attribute this to Jeff Fisher. He's a fantastic head coach, and he trusted a young quarterback. He's helped build around him, got him some great weapons as well. Arizona's worked really hard last few years to keep weapons even when they've lost players. Like I said, they're a really well-coached side. Great for a good young quarterback to give him all the talent he has to have. And honestly, it would have been great to see Arizona in the Pac-12 title game. I wanted so bad, like say, for Oregon to lose, Arizona to trash us. I'm just get them in. It'd have been such a fun game because they might never have a team this good again, genuinely. And that's a sad thought because Jeff Fisher deserves a head coach of the year, like a Cannon said. He's got to win Pac-12 head coach of the year. Whoever wins the Pac-12 title game, I don't care. I'll give it to Arizona. Like I said, Fafita will get one of the best players, but yeah, they just struggle to keep all of them. They play so well, but now the team's going somewhere. It's probably going to be a little bit easier to keep all of them. Next year, I reckon Arizona will be they'll open the year top 3. I think they'll start the year ranked. And I can't believe that the Wildcats haven't started the year in the AP poll for God knows how long. They'll definitely open the top 25 with Fafita under center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and Arizona State were weird. I think Jaden Rashada played the first game of the season, kind of had a niggle, never played again, and then they decided to throw him in this game, and he threw multiple interceptions. It was like, it's weird that to like, I don't know if he's going to stay. I'm pretty sure he might hit the pole again. I wouldn't be that surprised, but yeah.
I mean, Drew Pine's gone already, isn't he? He's in the portal,
Oh,
so
thank God.
they're all going. Yeah, but the one good thing, Skatibo had another 100-yard game. You found a plucky running back out of the FCS again. They love finding running backs. If just there was
Yeah,
good at the other
we're
bit, so.
good recruiting, yeah. And the record wasn't good, but I saw things that were good. And like, the despite athletic director as well, he's gone, which is great to see. That means everyone that employed Herm Edwards and all the tits around him has finally left the team. Purgatory's over, and Kenny Dillingham can get to work from next year. This year was always going to be bad. Next year, I want to see improvement.
So Fafita on the year, 74% for his passing, 2,500 yards, 23 touchdowns, and just 5 picks. He's a sophomore, but he only played 3 bit part games in his first year, so I'm not sure.
So next year he's going to be he's got to be a Heisman candidate next year.
I think he's a dark horse.
So, I mean, I was looking into the same stats that you just were. QBR is 85.5. That is 5th in the FBS. He is ahead of these quarterbacks in quarterback rating. Carson Beck, Jalen Milroe, Carl McCord, Michael Penix, Caleb Williams, DJ Ungulele, Jordan Travis, Drake May. He's ahead of all of them. And if you think, oh, he's had a really weak schedule.
No,
the losses that Arizona have had are against USC in triple overtime and against Washington, who obviously are going to potentially make the college football playoffs. The other teams that they've beaten this year are ranked Washington State, ranked Oregon State, ranked UCLA, ranked Utah at the time that they played them. And then they've beaten Colorado and Stanford. And like, this is a bloody good quarterback. The knock on him is what? He's 5'11 and a half? Like,
yeah.
He's not the stature that you'd want potentially in a ideal NFL quarterback, but the guy is having a glow up something rotten. And yeah, Ryan's right. I mean, these are Heisman numbers against a Heisman resume. And the fact that he's actually not getting more shout about it is a shame, because if he'd started those first 3 games of the year, he might well be a Heisman candidate right now.
Yeah, 100%. And give him a full season. He didn't start the season, but give him a full season and he'll probably get those numbers. So, yeah, that's fantastic from him. But the Territorial Cup, bit of a blowout there. But, you know, we're the only team. A lot of teams got done down in rivalry. The other one, so we're going to move into a few of the pick watch fixtures now, because there was some in there. But we called this, right, the Carolinas rivalry, UNC at NC State. You know, we both believe in the fraudulence of UNC. We both picked NC State for this. You know, their title aspirations were done the week before. We know UNC are a little bit fraudulent on defense. And I, as a Wolfpack fan, admit they have not been good this year. Like, I don't think they've been good this year, but they finished 3rd in the ACC. So they've obviously not been that bad, but they've not been great. But we absolutely banjaxed them in this one, really, in the end. It was 39-20 to NC State at home. UNC just looked like a team whose season had ended. They were on the bus. They were going home. Drake May threw a couple of picks on the day. I still don't know how to feel about him. Brennan Armstrong had his best game. I've been severely underwhelmed by him this year, but he was 290 yards, 3 touchdowns. He get some big carries on the ground as well. Not usually something he really does, but NC State just sort of went at this one really early. We got a huge lead in this. I think we were up 23-0 at one point, and that was before the half. Don't think UNC, did they score? I think they got a touchdown just before the half, but that was literally it. And then the second half was a bit of a damp squib, but UNC, I mean, Drake May didn't do himself any favours to end the season here, right? A couple more picks. Turnovers have been a bit of an issue for him. And NC State just dominated them start to finish. And they should be worried. If Matt Brown's not retiring, maybe they should make him retire if they want to make progress going forward. Because this wasn't acceptable for a rivalry game for them.
Not an acceptable year to not be in the ACC title race, to be honest. It's a team going nowhere. that every year has a couple of talented players. They do well, they hit the portal, or they go to the draft. That again. They don't play defense because they just try to outscore everyone. They're basically the USC of the ACC, and that's not a compliment. I've actually totally gone off Drake May. Actually, I can see him being a Mitch Trubisky, a one-year wonder. I can see him getting drafted too high and bombing out. I don't trust him. I think he just beats up on bad teams. That's what I've seen this year. They play good teams and he turns the ball over. I think he'll get drafted like top 5 or 6, but his bust rate is pretty high for me.
Former UNC star Mitch Trubisky, the next in a line that I don't know. Where are you with the May Caleb debate? Because a lot of credible publications have him above Caleb. But I think this season has shown flaws in his game. It's not like Sam Howell, who just got absolutely beaten to hell by a bad offensive line and no weapons. He's had a run game this year, which Sam Howell never had. Not in the second year anyhow. Sorry, he didn't. But has it been that bad for you? I'll go Matt first. And then...
No. I didn't know who that was directed at. Sorry, Brian.
Sorry, yeah.
Sorry.
I don't know.
I don't trust either of them. If I'm the Bears and I've got the first overall pick, I take Marvin Harrison Jr. or I trade it away. I don't take either of them.
I don't know. Where do you sit on the May Williams scale, Matt?
I think that Caleb is the better quarterback, but I'd rather have May, and I'd rather have neither of them, to be honest. It's a weird one. May strikes me as a player that is just a bit more mature than Caleb. Caleb strikes me as a bit of a baby, and I don't know. You can't lose games and just walk out the building without talking to the press. I know he's young, but he's not a child. People defending him are defending him like he's 17 years old and he's just lost his high school championship. Come on, guys. He's a grown-ass man. And Drake May carries himself far better. And there's downside to his game, certainly. And he's gotten worse compared to last year, certainly. Like you say, he's had the run game, but his completion percentage has fallen, his touchdowns have fallen, and his interceptions have risen. That running game should give you the buffer zone to play efficient, complementary football. And he hasn't done that. And that's with him beating up on bad teams. So, here's what I don't get about quarterbacks that like to run the ball. Where's the fumble stats? You see completions, attempts, completion percentage, yards per attempt, or yards per catch, touchdowns, interceptions. But Drake May's killed his team often by fumbling the ball while running it. And that happened again against NC State. And I don't agree with you about NC State this year. I think they've been a revelation this year because, last year, obviously, the quarterback that you love so much suffered a season-ending injury, and it looked like that was going to be maybe the start of NC State not doing a huge amount.
Florida State injured him. Sorry, I have to get that in.
But coming into this season, I don't feel like NC State's hopes were particularly high. To get, is it 9 wins? 9-3? And
I think we're at 8.
8-4?
8-4, I think. I'm right. I think we were 5-2 in conference, but we lost the big ones. So
9-3.
Oh, that's even better then.
9-3. And Brennan Armstrong tore him a new one. It was glorious to watch. And I don't know what Brennan's draft stock's going to be like.
He's frustrating. On his day, he's one of the best quarterbacks in college football. But he has those days very rarely. Maybe 2 games a year.
Yeah,
that's the sort of guy he is. And then
this has got to be his final year as well, right?
Oh yeah,
I believe so. Yeah,
he was at Virginia for years, wasn't he? So
I feel like he's going to be a very high upside undrafted free agent.
Yeah. Someone, before we end this game, who I do want us to draft from this team, though, when he's ready, right? Amarian Hampton. I know he had a bad game this week, and that's kind of what did it for them. But dude's running back one in a draft when he decides to declare. Maybe more so than Judkins and Singleton.
Yeah, he's an absolute star. He's been a revelation, breath of fresh air this year. He's had multiple 200-yard games, I believe, haven't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
just a workhorse back. Like you say, he's got jitter, he's got twitch, he can make people miss. I've seen home run speed. He's put it all together in games this year and just had like dominant performances. And when Drake has been subpar, he's taken the slack. He's taken 25 carries and got like 220 yards. He's won the game for them because the quarterback wasn't able to do it. And that's a sign of a potential star.
For as bad as this running back class is going to be in the draft coming up, well, I say bad, it's not going to be full of the star-studded names. The next one could potentially be one of the greatest running back classes we've ever seen with these guys in. If Judkins is in there, if Hampton is in there, if Singleton is in there. I mean, hell, if Donovan gets good at Michigan now when Blake Corum leaves, Jesus, it's going to be an insanely talented running back class, something like we've never seen. There could be 3 or 4 guys drafted in the first round. That's literally how good it is. So, anywho, let us move it on to some of the other pick watch games we had in there. There were teams who really let us down this week. We're doing rivalry games. Let's do the Virginia game first. Virginia Tech. I mean, you called this, right? I think. Oh no, we didn't. We went with Virginia in this, and we kind of got a little bit humbled. I think it was more sentimentality for the year they've been through. They were at home, though, against the Hokies team who they finished 6-6. They go to a bowl game, but blown out 55-17. Again, we talk about teams. Yours wasn't the only one who got blown out in the week. The Cavs, sad end to a season for them, which has just never really got going, but it may be understandable.
Yeah. Painful. It was sad. I would never have wished on them. Like say, it means a lot to them, especially after last year. And then, like say, this game, it just felt emotional. Like it was just too big for them. Like they just never really got going or really got into the game, and it was as one-sided as you like. Unfortunately, it was never really a contest. So it was quite sad to see. Not how I wanted that game to pan out. Unfortunately,
no. They look like they've got something good in Calandria, the quarterback. I mean, he had a turnover-free game. He looked really good, but yeah, it was a bit too much. But overall, 3 wins. You've sort of had your rebuild year a bit now. Hopefully, next year you're going to go on and be able to do something a little bit better. Other ones we had some games with big title complications, and no more so than in the American. 2 of the big unbeaten teams going head to head. There were 3 of them all together. UTSA at Tulane. You ride with the Green Wave. I ride with my Road Runners. I have for 3 years. They don't let me down, but this was the first time that they did. They came up short, 29-16 to Tulane, and maybe we've seen after this weekend the last ever game that Willie Fritz has coached at that team, because the sheer scale of a grand job he's done with the Green Wave is incredible. They're probably going to go to the New Year's Six bowl game again, 2nd year in a row. They've just been absolutely unstoppable, and against a good UTSA team, they put them down like they were just no threat at all.
Yeah, I've seen him linked to all the big jobs already. Willie Fritz, I think, is as good as gone. And I can't think of anyone in the nation that deserves a big Power 5 job more than him. And yeah, UTSA, Frank Harris, Jeff Traylor, they're used to winning. They're not used to not being in target. They know how to win big games and get big performances out. And yeah, forced multiple turnovers, which is very unlike Frank at times. And yeah, Tulane, back-to-back stacked fantastic years, the best of the Group 5s. Bringing Michael Pratt back, getting him back for another year was just, it worked. It paid dividends again. And booking a New Year's Six bowl looks like it's on the cards. It's down to 2 teams. them and it's Liberty Flames, and yeah, it's going to be difficult to pick between them.
Turnovers. What is the cardinal rule, Ryan? Don't turn the ball over. 5 from UTSA, 3 picks, 2 lost fumbles, just 1 from Tulane. 14-point turnover look difference in a game you've lost by 13. I mean, that just says about everything you need to know, really. But 2 really underrated quarterbacks in this one. Michael Pratt, who's going maybe to the draft, maybe to the portal, not going to stay at Tulane. Harris, probably going to come the undrafted route through the draft, unless he's got another year, but I don't think he does. But you see much of the Tulane team, Matt, there's unstoppable force these last couple of years, and one of the best head coaches in college football.
Yeah, and I'm just reading about the Tulane situation, and I mean, apparently Tulane have counter-offered to keep him there and make him a sort of mid-tier Big 12 paid head coach at like $4.5 million a year, which I have to think for someone like Tulane is a huge amount of money. There's some articles out there saying he's going to have to choose between Tulane and Houston, and it's like, to be where you are and make that sort of money versus going to Houston, I kind of feel like he might stay. I don't know, but I mean, Pratt completed 9 passes in this game. Like, it just says everything you need to know about it. And, you know, Mackie Hughes is just an absolute beast. But yeah, it's a shame that UTSA, after being just this sort of force that I've kind of come to hear in the back of my head, and goes, yeah, UTSA are a really good team. I'm like, okay, yeah, right, they're fine. And yeah, no, I mean, they didn't get there today. But yeah, the thing about the interceptions that you mentioned is just seeing the wide receiver throw a pass, his only pass and it got picked. That's the only fun thing I've seen from this one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Where does he Pratt ended up, Ryan? He's in the portal. He's a Power 5 quarterback, surely.
See, he's old. He's not very mobile. He's a pocket passer. That narrows down the possibilities. Like, see, what does he gain from staying another year in college? I don't think he gains anything. I don't think he ain't getting drafted. No one's drafting him, but he ain't getting drafted next year. He's a year older, and he'll still be just as less mobile. Just go to the draft.
No, but surely if you can actually get yourself some image rights in college, that's the biggest payday you'll get in your career.
Yeah, the NIL, if he gets a Power 5 team, I think if he can get like 700, let's say if he can make it $500,000 next year, the more than he makes as a UDFA potentially. So I kind of get that, but he needs to get a big offer. He needs to go to a big school, someone like
LSU,
an Auburn,
Washington.
He's just down the road from LSU. They need a quarterback.
Well, how many big teams are looking for a quarterback? Washington's looking for a quarterback because Penix is coming out.
Everybody.
Ohio State, I know I've mentioned it before, but like, why not? Some of these bigger teams should look at a guy like him.
I think a team like Michigan State, expectations are not high, but it's a big Power 5 team and you can get a good NIL and they're getting a new kind of coaching staff. That's probably where, if I'm him, I should be looking.
Yeah, I agree. I think he will get a good Power 5 job. And maybe he should, but who knows? This quarterback class, a lot of quarterbacks are undeclaring from the draft. All of a sudden, from being a potentially star-studded class, it's actually looking pretty barren.
It looks weak.
Outside a few of these, yeah, it does. If you've got concerns about Caleb and May, then God, yeah, it's weak. So, I mean, we'll have a look at that going forward. Other games in the pick watch, right, we got to mention them, right? Biggest disappointment of the year. We know which team we're talking about. And Brent, I'm going to have to blame you for this one. Your Army Black Knights broke the wings of the Air Force Falcons a month ago, and they've not been able to fly since then. They've not won another game this season, and they went down to Boise State. I know, Rye, you picked Boise in hope of the reverse effect that Air Force would win. I picked Air Force. I lost. You won, but I mean, there's no more disappointing a season than theirs this year. After starting, 7-0, they were one of the last 8 unbeaten teams in the country, and there were very few others down. And then Army beat them again, thanks, Brent. They've lost to Hawaii. They've lost to UNLV. They've lost to Boise now. It's playing, it's just all come down in flames for them.
They fumbled the bag. 7-0, they had one hand. They had one foot in the title game. They'd run through everyone. They were like I said, they weren't turning the ball over. Suddenly they lose to Army, and then like 6 turnovers. Next week, 5 turnovers. Like, ridiculous. Honestly, it's painful what's happened to them. And not like in a bad way, like it's just been painful to watch how bad they've been and how they've ruined one of their best ever seasons. What could have been? Like I said, they have no excuses to not be in the title game and not be in the New Year 6 bowl game. They screwed it all up. And they're going to lose a lot of people, like say, that are going to go into active service. They're going to lose a lot of guys, like say, I don't know, like say, depending on, like say, the portal rules, if any of them are good enough to try get like a group of 5 team. But yeah, I picked them. I went against them because I knew they wouldn't win because they were broken. They were felt like that they just couldn't be fixed. Everything I've seen, and yeah, what a sad ending for a team that I really like, but so just unsurprising. You could just see them limping to the end of the year, like just make it end. We want it to stop.
Yeah,
What is the state? Weren't even good.
No, and they're in the title game. They fire the head coach 2 games ago. Avalos must be fuming because they're in a title game now. He could have won a Mountain West title this year, and now he's sat at home on his couch, and they're potentially going to go and win the whole thing. And I just don't know. It just seems such a weird fact. I know that they have high expectations for that team there, but come on, give a man a chance. Give him an opportunity to be able to at least try and win before you discard him there. But hey-ho, strange things happen. And they're going to be facing UNLV, one of the big success stories this year. Bob Odom and co. We love them. But we did say last week of the season, getting ready for the title game, that there would be maybe some, not hesitancy, but they're looking forward to the game itself, maybe resting a few guys. They're playing San Jose State, who had an opportunity. They were 4th in the conference to, they could have won if results went their way. Unfortunately, Air Force ballsed it up for them. They did lose 37-31. Actually, very competitive game, given that they've already made the title game there. And unlucky for San Jose State, not enough for them. They finished the season 3rd, but UNLV, still a good game for them. They've got a title game coming up. We got this one right, but it's been a very competitive Mountain West this year. 4 teams right till the end, all playing each other on the final week, and a couple of good games came out of it.
That's how it should be. On the final day of the season in a conference, there should be at least one title spot available. If there's not, I'm not interested. I only like wide open competitive football. I don't like stuff where it's not scripted, but it's just predictable. Like I said, the Mountain West this year has been great. Bob Odom won Coach of the Year. I saw that the other day. I think they've handed out awards. Yeah. Thoroughly reserved. And yeah, they went out there. They didn't risk anything. They didn't risk any players' health. Like say, they mixed it up a bit, like say 2nd and 3rd stringers. But they went out there. They gave playing time to who needed it. They gave the guys that are going to play in the title game enough minutes to just warm their arm up. They didn't care they lost. Like I said, they'd done all their hard work. They had the right to go out there and play some of their depth guys and still could have won the game. Maybe that just shows you how good their overall roster is this year. They were very competitive in a game that they weren't too bothered about, like I say, and they still played well. And I can't see them losing. I just don't. It's just written in the stars. They are not losing the title game.
Oh, I've been on this train. I loved them last year. I feel like Marcus Arroyo should have been given the chance to finish the job he started. He hasn't, but they're there, and I fully expect them to go on and win it. But Mountain West, Matt, 2 big title games, 4 teams in it to win it. Great, exciting stuff coming into the last week of the year, and two worthy finalists in the end.
But you've got to feel hard for SJSU to go out there and beat UNLV and have hopes to leapfrog Boise State and face UNLV again in the title game. I, as a fan, kind of feel bad for SJSU to win that game and hope to have the rematch in the title game, and then you miss out as the joint winners of the conference, but the computer rankings say no. You just see Anne there going, SJSU, can we get in the title game, please? Computer says no. Like, sucks for them. But yeah, UNLV have been terrific this season, and I mean, they've got to be big favourites, right, going into the Mountain West title game. But it's been one of the best conferences in football for sure, and got high hopes for them, along with the Pac-2, to be one of the more exciting conferences again next year. I know that the Pac-2 don't technically count as conference games, but they're all going to play one of them. So I think that sounds really, really good, and the prospects are bright for the sixth conference, shall I call it, maybe, because I feel like they are elevating themselves in the group of five.
Yeah, they all. I think they've been the most exciting maybe this year, maybe outside of the real top of the Sun Belt. But there's dark horses arrived this year, and I've seen it mentioned in the chat twice now, and I do need to mention it. But right, there is potentially another dark horse emanating out of the Mountain West for next year, given the end of the season they've had and the rebuild he's had. But we've not mentioned Hawaii in a little while. Big on them at the start of the season. A couple of losses that we were a bit frustrated by, but they've had a tear to end the season. They end the season with 5 wins, just missing short of a bowl game. It's year 2 of his build. Braden Shager apparently meant to go in the portal, but he's not. You know, false reports out there about that. But they end with a win to Colorado State at home, 27-24. Shager's been one of the most prolific quarterbacks in the entire country. Problem's been their defense and their run game, but the defense seems to have toughened up as the year's gone on. They've just got to fix the run game. But Hawaii have been a big surprise there this year. You know, nearly bowl eligible, some big wins in the conference. You know, I know Air Force, it was their second loss of the year. It's a big win to beat a team like that who is so physical, so dominant. Colorado State, you know, slouches under Jay Norvell. Great end of the season for them.
Yeah. Next season, to build on it, start better. If they started better this year, they'd have been in the title race. And it's one of those things where you say it like it's simple, but it is. Just what you're doing now, the intensity going in, the game plans and that, you've got to replicate it in spring camp next year. And yeah, if they start next year like they finished this year, they're a proper dark horse. But until I see game 1 or game 2 next year, I can't call them it yet, because they're just too slow out the blocks. They look like they're trying to figure things out still when they've already kicked off the first game of the season. But if they keep hold of the quarterback, that is one big box already ticked for next year. And home games as well. When they have a real home game advantage in that proper stadium they're building, that they might genuinely play better football. Yeah. So if they can get an actual crowd there, just something to G them up, and I'd like to see a lot of the Hawaiians get behind them when they've got a nice venue to play football in. And yeah, like I say, I agree. The Mountain West outside of the Power 5 is the Mountain West and the Sun Belt are the best Power 5 conferences by far. The others just don't come close. And one of them one day could be the next Power 6 if you take the best teams and somehow put them together. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if the Mountain West becomes the Pac-14, then they will be.
Yeah.
If they absolve each other, yeah. Like I say, they'll be finding somewhere to share the TV rights. They'll work on somewhere to get it.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, dark horse contender for next year for sure. And the other dark horse contender, it's a bit too late for them this year. In talking about the Big 12 here, but the Bechtical Spectacle, right? We talk about him every week. Rocco Becht, Iowa State, knocking off Kansas State, who had a legitimate run to the Big 12 title game. They were in pole position. It was theirs to lose. And Iowa State go there. It says on the road against a team that scores a ton of points, 42-35 winners. And the offense in this was crazy. Iowa State, they averaged 14.2 yards per offensive snap. 14.2. That is needless to say 100 percentile. So a first down and a half every time the ball. Look at the game. Rocco Becht was 8 of 12 for 230 yards and 3 touchdowns. So nearly every other pass was a touchdown. Abu Sama, the third running back, 16 carries, 276 yards, 3 touchdowns, averaging just a measly 17.2 yards per carry. I mean, Kansas State, we know how great they are. Will Howard had his traditional good game. There was tons of offense. They both actually had 497 yards of offense in this. So 1,000 yards, differed a little about how they got them. But, I mean, that's a rotten end to the season for Kansas State. They were defending the Big 12 title and they had it in their hands and they let it slip. But you've got to figure if Campbell stays at Iowa State, Becht stays there, and they keep the core group of players together, that there is a contender for that title next year.
Yeah, I have thoroughly enjoyed watching the Cyclones this year. I think they've looked better after losing Brock Purdy. And Brock Purdy is one of the best quarterbacks in history. But Rocco Becht started the first 4 or 5 games of the year, nervous, turning the ball over, making good throws. And then since then, he's had the odd moment, but it's been clean football all the way. Like I say, he has had weapons. Higgins, the outside wide receiver, he's been dominating guys. TJ Tampa, one of my favourite corners in the draft, I like him in Detroit. Bo Frailer, one of the best safeties in the Big 12. The guy's got like 4 sacks, 4 interceptions, like 4 forced fumbles on a year. He's been an absolute wrecking crew. Their defense is absolutely stacked. Like I say, they've had one of the best rushing performances in FBS history. Like I say, Fan put in one of the best performances I've ever seen. And yeah, Becht is a young man. Like I say, Matt Campbell is a very well-respected coach. A couple of years ago, I remember the NFL kind of chatters. He kind of quashed them. I think, yeah. The Lions, like I said, they wanted to interview him. I'm pretty sure he wasn't interested. And he is a good coach. He's found another quarterback. The Big 12 landscape. The Big 12 next year will be by far the hardest conference to predict a winner. Yeah, get teams like Arizona State. Like I say, you're losing a team, you're losing big names. So it's going to be an absolute dogfight. And for Kansas State, what a way to end the year. Basically, your quarterback's gone. He's basically the hottest name in the quarterback in the poll because he's basically already entered. Like I say, Howard, I've read everywhere that most of the big teams want him. Big Ten, SEC. He's going to have his pick of the guys because last 2 years, like 5,000 yards. He's thrown like 35 touchdowns to like 10 interceptions. He's been an absolute wrecking machine. They had their chance, like I say, it was kind of in their hopes to go back to the game, defend it, and they got out-dueled. And I'm a big Chris Clemens fan. That will have hurt K-State fans massively. Next year, so we saw it with Baylor. Last year they won the title. This year they slip up. Next year, the Leash Titans. The Big 12 is they're quick to fire coaches. If they have a bad year next year, it's very unforgiving. Chris Clemens will be in trouble. They will expect him to be in contention to win the Big 12 again. And if he's not, well, the fans, they'll probably turn pretty quickly, unfortunately. Like I said, they lose their quarterback, patience will be thin. Let's see who they replace him with. That'll be the big thing. Who's going to be under center next year for K-State? It's one of those offenses I'd love to play in. I think they'll get a really good quarterback in to potential thing. But yeah, Iowa State next year, definitely a team to watch. And Becht they're going to be trying to lure him away. I expect there are going to be a few cheeky boosters that try to tap him up in the next year or two. If he does play really well again next year, I don't think he'll be with the Cyclones very long, if not entering the draft. Because I think he's a redshirt freshman next year. So another great next year.
No, he'll not be a redshirt. He started. Well, he'll be sophomore next year.
So he'll be one of the best sophomores in the nation next year. 2025 onwards, he could be one of the names to watch as a pro.
Hey, I just this for I know who is in the portal who deserves a Power 5 job, and his dad happened to be a very good quarterback in the NFL.
EJ Warner.
See EJ Warner in that Kansas State system. I mean, dude
It's
just
a
threw
pass
for his,
happy offense.
yeah, he just threw for his second consecutive 3,000-yard season at Temple, and Temple have been garbage this year. But he's over 3,000 yards both years as a starting freshman and as a starting sophomore. I don't know. EJ Warner, K-State, got to call it there, but Becht is the name you need to. We've given him a name, the Bechtical Spectacle. That is the next draft name you need to hear a quarterback there. But 14.2 yards per offensive snap in a game, man. That's pretty decent. Iowa State, Matt Campbell.
It's pretty class. And I mean, I've just been watching the highlights back. Becht was 8 of 12 for 230, as you say, but he was 5 of 8 for 92, which means he went 3 of 4 for 138 after that. It's just ridiculous. But no, I've been watching the game. I mean, you couldn't hope for worse conditions. Like, it was snowy as hell, and that's why the stats are so weird. I mean, Iowa State...
Farmageddon, isn't it? They call it Farmageddon, that one.
Yeah.
It's a lovely name.
But basically, Iowa State played to the conditions and Kansas State didn't. And that's the difference in the game. Abu Sama had himself a day. And the reason he did is his contact balance is fantastic and his vision is really good. He's not going to set the NFL world alight, I don't think, because I don't think his speed is quite there. He strikes me as a Jermar Jefferson Mark II sort of guy. I don't know whether that's
great in my book.
But that's the sort of person that in a snow game you want to see, because that's the sort of person that's gonna produce for you. And because they ran it so effectively, when Becht did drop back, they went for massive gains. Whereas, as far as I can tell, Kansas State ran their traditional offense. And it was fine, but in the conditions it dictated trying to do something else. And Iowa State are built for it and Kansas State are not. And that is the way the cookie crumbled. And, you know, Will Howard is who he is at this point. 50% completion rate in this game. Yeah. It was because of the conditions. But I can see K-State coming and bringing in someone with a big name like you just mentioned.
Yeah.
If Iowa State played Iowa next week, I would back Iowa State.
100%.
I think they're off.
Definitely.
I think that just because their offense, it would overwhelm.
When it happened earlier this season, Becht was in his turnover phase. They didn't get the best of him. No, that was when he was young. And
I'm holding myself back from mentioning what's coming up with the Big Ten Championship because I know we're going to mention that soon. But you talk about Iowa and points.
Yeah.
Have you seen what the over/under is on points for Iowa in that game?
For Iowa themselves?
Yeah, the betting.
I reckon it'd be about like 8 or 9
in each half. Bet365 are offering the over/under at 0.5.
Holy shit!
You're backing Iowa State in this game.
You know what earlier during the FCS playoffs, where I talked about North Dakota State and who did they play again? The 66-3 Drake. I just thought, a little bit of me thought that could be the Big Ten title game score if Iowa's defense is better. But yeah, anyhow, there's just a few shout outs I want to give because we've been talking a while now. We need to talk about the championship games and get out of here. So there are flowers we need to give out to some of these teams. And one of the most surprising teams to get a bowl berth this year, right, and absolutely deserved, is Ricky Rahn and the Old Dominion Monarchs. Finishing off the season 6-6 with a 25-24 win over the Georgia State Panthers, also 6-6 on there. But we barely paid them any attention in the Sun Belt preview. They lost all their best players. They lost their quarterback to the portal. He is building through recruiting. He had his best recruiting class last year. I mean, for Old Dominion, that's a very low bar. We're talking 3 stars, some 2 stars in here. And he's created a 6-win team out of them in one season. He found a reliable quarterback in Grant Wilson. They have had some big wins this year against some legitimate teams. I mean, if I remember rightly with them, they've taken down Georgia State. They took down Georgia Southern, who were going for the Sun Belt title game the other week. They nearly beat Coastal Carolina. They only lost by 3 points to James Madison. They took down App State. They only lost by 6 to Marshall. They had that weird 10-9 game against Texas A&M Commerce, who I still don't know where they come from. They only lost by 3 to Wake Forest, who are a Power 5 team. They beat Louisiana, who are 2 years removed from a Sun Belt title. They barely lost to South Alabama. I mean, if you're giving out Coach of the Year for best success done in situation given, I mean, he'd win it, surely.
I mean, that is a really hard schedule. It's easier than some of the Power 5 teams. So some of them have scheduled crap just to steamroll through. Old Dominion have had to they've been underdogs pretty much every week. And yeah, it was very fitting that did the loser lose ball? I'd say Georgia.
No, they're both 6 and 6. They're both 6 and 6.
Do they have enough games? I thought they were out of the ball game.
No.
I didn't know they had enough FBS wins. I thought only the winner would have got in.
I think it does. I think they will get the eligibility from it. I can't remember who they beat. Georgia State. No, I think they should be all right. But Old Dominion should be as well. But
yeah, they've done really well this year. Like I say, I'll back them in a bowl game too. Like I say, they've got really good down the end stretch of the season, and I think they thoroughly potentially deserve a good bowl game. I hope they don't get one of the crap ones, because there's too many bowls this season anyway. There's too many bowls in general.
Yeah,
too many bad teams get bowl games, but this is one of the good teams that deserved it, and the head coach that deserved it for bringing together a lot of strays and turning them into a team.
Yeah, absolutely. You okay there, Matt?
Yeah, I'm just freaking out about this game. You said 25-24. That does not tell a fucking story of this game. Old Dominion hadn't scored any points with 1:35 left in the third quarter.
Yeah.
They were 24-17 down with 1:18 left on the clock, forced a safety, and then had a quarterback draw game-winning touchdown with 2 seconds left on the clock. I have to go back and watch this game. It sounds so good. I'm just watching the last 30 seconds of it now. Holy shit, how did this happen? To come from 21-0 down, you are 98.8% against to win the game with a minute and a half to go in the third quarter. And to come back from that after everything you've overcome this season, it's one of the stories of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the best jobs done in there. You've got him, you've got Jerry Kill at New Mexico State, you've got Willie Fritz, you've got a very talented list for head coach this year. So I wanted to give the shout out to them. Just to finish off the Pitwatch games, UConn beat UMass in the toilet bowl. James Madison destroyed Coastal Carolina. Miami of Ohio snuck through against Ball State to get to the MAC title game. And New Mexico State beat Jacksonville State. So even if Jacksonville State would have been eligible for the CUSA title game, they wouldn't be going because New Mexico State have beaten them. So a lot in there. It was a fantastic week of football. A lot of good games. A lot I've not even mentioned in there, but they were some of the standout ones. Fantastic week. Kentucky upset Louisville. Well, I don't know if it's an upset over Louisville, but there were some good ones in there. Even Stanford, they look good against Notre Dame. But yeah, let's move it on. We've been talking about week 13 for a long time. We need to go to the previews for the championship games, and we'll give our picks. Matt, I know you sent them to me already, but you can get involved in this because no one else has seen them. You can announce them here. So let's just move it straight in. So we've got 10 championship games upcoming this weekend. We are going to pick the winners for them. And me and Ryan are going to let you know who we had at the start of the season in these games and whether it translated to the game. Spoiler, for me, it's not very many. But let us start off with tonight. The Pac-12 championship game is tonight. We've already mentioned Oregon versus Washington. It's on neutral ground at the Allegiant Stadium. Oregon 9-point favorites in this, despite the fact they've already lost to Washington, and Washington are the unbeaten third seed, but we'll tell you why. But this is a battle not only for the Heisman, potentially, not only for the Pac-12 championship, but also for the college football playoffs as well. And this is two offenses that are insanely good. Oregon ranked second in the nation in total offense and scoring offense. Washington are 12th and 11th, respectively. On one side of the ball with Oregon, you've got Bo Nix, Buck-EYYE, Troy Franklin, Tez Johnson. On the other, you've got Michael Penix, Dylan Johnson, Rome Odunze, Jalen Polk. The team's offensive lines, they're ranked first and second in the nation in sacks allowed. Oregon have allowed just 5 sacks on the season, 5 in 11 games. One of those been the decisive one that Washington got against them in the regular season game. Washington have given up just 9 over 11, which is still pretty good, but Oregon, best offensive line, giving up sacks by 4. Nix and Penix are the only 2 quarterbacks in the FBS to pass 3,900 yards passing for the season. Well, Penix is 3,899, but I'm giving it him. The defenses are where they divert. Oregon, 15th nationally in total defense. Washington are 93rd. Their passing defense is ranked 124th in the nation out of 133 teams. But, big caveat, as we've seen this year, it might not be the best defense, but it's the most clutch out of the two of them. And if you go back to the regular season game, what won them that game was the strip sack of Nix just before halftime, because Washington stole a possession from Oregon because of that, and they were able to stay in front for the rest of the game. You saw Washington make the clutch stop against Oregon State 2 weeks ago. The defense was responsible for that. So it's not great, but when it needs to, it stands up. Questions here. Have Oregon learned their lesson from the last game? Can they make enough stops on Penix to make the points count? And Dan Lanning, has he learned his lessons? Because he lost them in that game with some really boneheaded play calling last time. There were 2 4th downs in the red zone that he went for. I think they turned over one, didn't get points off the other. Should have been kicking field goals, made stupid calls. But this was one of the best games of the college football season. Pronto, the regular season game, and we're getting the rematch today. Ryan, I will start with you. Thoughts, Oregon, Washington. Is it going to be the same tune as the first time, or are the winds changing?
If you'd asked me this question 3 weeks ago, I'd have had a different answer. I would have said normal service will resume. The Washington defense will come out on top and they'll win a high scorer. I now have Oregon winning the game. I think at the wrong time, Washington's offense is it's spluttering, it's misfiring, and I can see it continuing. The Oregon defense, it's nothing special. It doesn't even make that many massive turnover-worthy players, but I can see them being enough to frustrate Penix and slow down the run game. And I can see it being a bit of a scrappy team. And Bo Nix has been pretty much consistent throughout all season. I say he's been really good pretty much from start to finish, and I don't see it stopping. So I don't know. I don't think it's an upset now. I can see Oregon getting revenge when it really matters. And if they do, yeah, Bo Nix probably booking the Heisman Trophy. If he does turn around and upset it, I can see him being the front runner. So yeah, I've got a Ducks win.
Matt, I mean, it was 6 weeks ago, one of the best games of the college football season between these two. But the winner, they've taken different paths. The winner has struggled in recent weeks to deal with the pressure of being unbeaten in the playoffs. Oregon have destroyed everything in sight. Like, they took that loss personally, and it's been just burned by fire, everything they've had. The rematch is here. Do you see a different Oregon side coming out this time? Who do you have winning this one?
I've got Washington, and I just think so. Oregon, since the loss to Washington, have been in losing out territory, and frankly, even if we win all the games, maybe we don't make it. They have won all the games. If they win this one, they make it, probably. So Oregon have been in the mindset this entire time, and Washington, you're right, have been feeling the pressure. But now, it's a one-game shootout, and Washington will feel that pressure. But Penix has been living under this idea of, I can't screw up here. But I think he'll come into this game now feeling like, this is it for him. It could be the last game of his college career. And I think he's not been shy. It's just not been happening for Washington in the same way that it has been. I believe in him more than I believe in Bo Nix. And I don't really know why, because there's no doubt for me that Nix has had the better season. And I don't really know why Penix is the favourite for the Heisman over Nix. But that is the national narrative, and that's fine, whatever. But when I look at both of them, when I look at their entire careers, their entire resume, and I look at what I think of them both as quarterbacks, I just believe more in Penix than I do in Nix. And maybe it's wrong, but I don't know. I believe in Washington's play calling. I believe in their stones more than I believe in Oregon. And despite my love for the Oregon uniforms, which will be everlasting, I've got Washington. And I don't think it will be as close as last time. And I know the line is big in Oregon's favour. I don't know why. I'm sorry, Washington jitters, but they're still unbeaten and their resume is fantastic. So why are we fading them now? It's not like anyone's got injured. That's a big deal for them. So give me the Huskies.
I believe in Washington. And this is because I have the emotional attachment to Kalen DeBoer, and this is where I struggle because I developed these attachments. I believe he's a great head coach. I think they've had the jitters because they've not been in this position before, but now the pressure's off. They're underdogs. People expect them to lose, and I expect them to free up and start playing that style of football again. And I've said I backed them in the first game. I don't believe the defense is great, but I know it's clutch when it wants to be. In Oregon, they've been the biggest choke artists of them all these last few years. The two games against Utah a couple of years back were the big ones. They choked those. They choked this game against Washington. When Oregon are in high-pressure situations, they choke. So I think this is Washington's to win. The other one that we have this evening is the CUSA championship game. And absolutely, I'm 100% emotionally invested in this for all the wrong reasons. New Mexico State at Liberty. This is not a neutral site game. It is at Liberty. Liberty are 11.5-point favorites. Liberty's offense is insane. It is 5th in the nation in total offense, 6th in scoring offense, and they sport the most deadly running game in the country. They have 295 yards per game on the ground, and that is spearheaded by the quarterback and their main running back. So Caden Salter, the quarterback for them, he has 40 touchdowns he's combined for this year, and he's averaging, I think, about 6.3 yards per carry. He's just shy of 900 yards on the season, but it's their main running back. They've got 1,300 yards on the season, and his name has just completely evaded me on here. Let me just quickly get up there. But they run the ball well. They throw the ball really well. They have destroyed everything in their path this season, and we didn't see it coming. I don't think me and Ryan had them in either game. And actually, I forgot to do that first time. So let's just quickly go back to the title game there, the first one, the Pac-12. Who did you have in the Pac-12 title game to start the year, Ryan?
I had Washington beating USC.
I had Washington in there, but I had them. Oh, I had Washington beating USC as well. So we were right on one. Right, we'll take that. But sorry, yeah, back to the CUSA. Anyhow, Liberty, the running back, Quinton Cooley, 1,251 yards this year. He's averaging 6.2 yards per carry. He's got 13 rushing touchdowns. Caden Salter has 11, 900 yards, 6.4 yards per carry. They've got two other guys above 400 yards, both averaging 5 yards per carry as well. It is a running back room, well, not even by committee, but it's great. Salter, 2,431 yards, a little inaccurate at 59%, but he's got 29 touchdowns, 5 interceptions on the year, so they don't turn the ball over much. And this is where New Mexico are going to have to be able to convert on. So New Mexico have been great this year. Jerry Kill, they were independents, both these teams last year. They're both newcomers, both get to the title game. The New Mexico State defense is great this year. They're leading CUSA. They only allow 19.7 points per game in conference. They've had 31 sacks in 12 games. That was second in the conference. They're top 3 in the conference in total defense, just 362 yards per game. And the rushing defense, only 125 yards per game. And they've allowed fewer passing touchdowns than any other team in the conference, just 14. And the offense has gone really well with it as well. They're top 3 in total yards per game, yards per play, and rushing yards. They also rush 205 yards per game. They're number 4 in the country at 5.8 yards per carry. Only 3 other teams who run the ball for more yards per play. They've got 70 plays of at least 20 yards. So that's what explosive plays are. They are a big explosive offense. They convert more than 43% of their third downs, which is also amongst the top in the nation. Fourth down, they're really good. And they're one of only 10 FBS programs who average more than 200 yards in the air and on the ground. Diego Pavia is the guy there. The turnover machine, who used to be from the New Mexico Military Institute, has just turned it round. They are a great team on both sides of the ball, but Liberty, they're just an unstoppable monster. The one time they struggled this year was against Sam Houston at home. And as Rai said earlier, they were terrible when they did that. And what happened? Sam Houston didn't lose the turnover battle. Liberty have turned the ball over in their favor so many times this year, giving themselves so many possessions. It's the only game this year they didn't score more than 30 points. Ryan, CUSA, we've got the juggernaut against the dark horse. And we predicted this dark horse, but maybe not as good as we thought. No, they're better than we thought they'd be. Can the Minnows upset the Gigantosaurus?
No. Liberty, they're running the table. They're winning it all. Might even get a New Year's Six bowl. I think they have got too much offense for that defense. But I think 11 points. I think they'll cover the spread. I think it'll be close on 11 points, though. I think they'll do themselves justice. But yeah, I think the Flames are they've got too much.
Matt, is it going to be the underdog or the favourite?
Yeah, I'm going with Liberty. I mean, the last time they met was in week 3, and Liberty put 526 yards of offense on them. Like, they got their number. And, you know, Salter had 4 total touchdowns in that game, 2 in the air, 2 on the ground. New Mexico State are a great story this year. They've been fantastic. But Liberty have, you know, just gone from strength to strength year after year. And they're going to end the season unbeaten. And, I mean, where do Liberty go from here? Like, they've gone and they've come into the CUSA, they've run the table, and I've got to feel like, as a Liberty fan, you're looking at this team thinking, what more can we do? Because this is the best season that you could ever dream of.
If someone takes Jerry Kill from New Mexico State, they could run this table for half a decade. They might not lose a game again. Like, that's the difference in quality here. But me, I am going to ride the Kill train until the end. I believe in Jerry. Usually a lot of times when teams beat each other in the regular season, it flips in the title game. They're a lot better than when they played initially after 3 weeks. Pavia has cleaned up his issues. The Kill train is going to do it. New Mexico State for me, and that is why I'm always last. Actually, I'm fighting you for last place in the Pick Watch this year. I should maybe be more tactical in this, but hey-ho, we love that. Ryan, who was your CUSA prediction at the start of the year?
Not good. Louisiana Tech to beat Western Kentucky.
I also had Western Kentucky to beat Louisiana Tech, and we're not going to talk about that. Louisiana Tech were useless this year. Western Kentucky
this actually isn't my worst prediction either. I made a worse one.
Oh, God. I'm actually quite intrigued. No, I agree with you. I made worse ones than that. Right, let's move this on. And the next one we have... Oh, I think you guys have pretty much already predicted this, but SEC Championship, Georgia versus Alabama. They're playing at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, home of the Atlanta Falcons. Georgia roll into this one, 5.5-point favorites. I mean, we know a lot about what these teams are. Georgia have been the dominant force, 29 straight wins. Carson Beck has been good, not turning the ball over, good and efficient without being elite. But they've got a good run game. We know how good their defense is, even though it's maybe shown a few holes this year from all the draft losses. Bama, since that Texas game, they've worked the kinks out their system. Milroe is playing better, if still making a few boneheaded calls. Their run game with Roydale Williams has been better. The defense has been top-notch. A lot of good defense, a lot of good offenses they've shut down. You kind of feel like Alabama have the momentum coming into this with the Iron Bowl win, but I don't know, Rye, where you go in SEC title game, Georgia versus Alabama.
Alabama will win by hook or by crook. Whether it'll be pretty, it'll be ugly. I don't know how they'll do it, but Saban will do it. I think the Crimson Tide they're just built for the big moments. And I had Georgia beating LSU.
Yeah, you did. You did. Matt, Georgia at Alabama. Oh, Georgia versus Alabama. Who's your pick?
So when I did the pick watch, you sent out the questions and I replied pretty instantaneously without thinking. I put Georgia.
You can change them.
No, don't worry. I have already changed it. It's already gone. I'm picking Alabama, and it's so easy to pick the team that has not lost a game in almost 2 seasons now. But if you look at how both teams are playing, you have a look at the trust that both teams should have coming into this game. I will not understand someone picking Georgia, because Bama have got the momentum here, and Georgia are the ones that are looking like they're hanging on by the skin of their teeth through this process. You know, just getting through Georgia Tech and whatever, and I know Alabama just got through Auburn. Which one's the more quality win? Like, I just think that, and as much as I have hated Alabama over the years, because the way we feel about Georgia now is the way we felt about Alabama 2 years ago, as the sort of juggernaut of the college football scene. Quarterback-wise, Alabama have got it, and Georgia don't. That's where I'm at right now. That's deciding the game for me.
It's tough. I do feel like the overall momentum is with Bama. And I mean, for the whole throwing the playoffs into chaos type thing there. But Georgia have won it twice in a row. We kind of wrote them off last year, and they did it again. But three-peating is incredibly difficult. This is tough.
Don't you need to catch up?
Yeah, I do. I'm going to go with Georgia. It's not a bad backup bet, really, is it? Georgia, the 2-time champions.
Well, taking the favourites by 5.5 points, yeah.
Yeah, that's not exactly a bad one. So I'm going to take Georgia with that, but, colour me not 100% confident. I'm not sure with that one. Who was your SEC title game, Ryan?
I had Georgia to take down LSU.
I had Georgia to take down Arkansas. Yeah, well, we can do that one in. Sam Pittman, you will be the death of me.
Be who you always are, good sir.
You know what? I backed Arkansas. I'm not going to back away from it. I thought they came into this year, but Raheem Sanders has been hurt. He's been hurt most of the season, and they're just not the same without him. And, it obviously just wasn't enough. So I'm going to hold up. But I did have Georgia in there, so at least I can console myself with that. Right, ACC next, and we're going to have one very intrigued listener for this. I know that we are. Florida State and Louisville. So this one has been played at the Bank of America Stadium. That is, of course, the home of the Carolina Panthers. They've not seen much good football there. This might be the best they have seen it in a while. Louisville never won an ACC title. I don't even know if they've been to a championship game, but they've certainly never won one. But a team who has surprised a lot of people this year. Jack Plummer, the quarterback. I know, Rye, you've had your citations about him. He seems to have gotten better as the year goes on, throwing at 66%, just shy of 3,000 yards on the year, 21 touchdowns, but 11 interceptions, which has been his problem. But you've got a bona fide running back in Jawad Jordan. He's over 1,000 yards. You've got Jamari Thrash, one of the best receivers in the division. And you've got a really really solid defense here. Ashton Gillott, 14.5 tackles for loss and 11 sacks on the year on the D-line for him. This is a D-line that loves to bring pressure, and it causes turnovers. The secondary is good. Devin Neal's 4 picks on the year. Cameron Kelly, Quincy Riley have a couple apiece. It's kind of what's kept them going in games they've suffered. Now, they lost against Kentucky last time out. It's an SEC team, maybe not a good one, but they've surprised a lot of people getting here. Florida State, on the other hand, have just ran over everybody, and I think we kind of had these penciled in as one of the most automatic favorites of them all until the injury to Jordan Travis. I mean, dude threw 20 touchdowns, just 2 picks this year, nearly 3,000 yards for him. But in his absence, Trey Benson stood up last week. He's at 838 yards, 14 touchdowns this year, running at 6 yards per carry. Rodemaker, I mean, he's 5-0 in his touchdown to interception ratio, 510 yards. He's throwing at 57%. He's serviceable, but it obviously upsets the rhythm of this team. The line is down to 2.5 in Florida State's favor. Obviously, it's on neutral ground. Louisville, the bromance, Ryan, has been real this year. He's far exceeded expectations for year one of this program, but can he go on and cause one of the biggest shocks of this entire year, even sans Travis?
Yeah, I think they can. I think a quarterback that is very inexperienced could be about to put under the most pressure he's been put under. I think the Louisville defense will win the game, not the offense. I think they can force mistakes from Rodemaker. I think this won't be a pretty game. This will not be a high-scoring game, I don't think. I think this will be 2 defenses trying to keep in. One quarterback is turnover prone, the other one is inexperienced. I think they'll lean on their defense more, try to run the ball. Like I say, it could be a bit of a smash mouth game. I can't even saying this. I'll take Louisville.
Wow, that's a big one. Matt, are you going with the Cinderella Rodemaker or the bromance? Which side are we falling on?
I'm riding with Trey Benson in this one. At the end of the day, with Benson and I mean, are Florida State's wide receivers good to go? Wilson and Coleman are good.
No more injuries.
Give me Florida State. Like, I can't believe the line is only 2.5. Like, if you've got a quarterback who doesn't put the ball in harm's way, you've got a solid run game with a good defense, you take the other side. But Plummer puts the ball in harm's way, and that ain't gonna fly. And when FSU can control the clock, limit Plummer's possessions, and he gives the ball away as much as he does, give me Florida State and give the College Football Playoff Committee something to think about. Because I know that the quarterback situation is dire, but how do you keep out a 13-0 Florida State?
Yeah, it is tough. I'm pretty sure Brent and Lisa are in cahoots in the comments here. They're betting the same for everyone, but they're going Florida State. So, you know what? I cannot believe I'm saying this because I am the first one to jump on an excuse to not bet for Florida State. And there's no bigger one than no Jordan Travis, but I just also feel they are the better team right now. They have the seniors, they've got the experience, and I love the bromance. I honestly do, and I would be ecstatic if they won it, but I just do feel that Florida State just have the experience advantage here, and if they can win the time of possession, run the ball well, put Rodemaker in easy positions, I still think they can win, so I'm going to go there. Who was your prediction at the start of the season, Ryan?
Florida State to beat Clemson.
Oh, I had Florida State to beat Clemson as well. We're Florida State fans. Yeah, we both bet on it. Neither of us really believed in Cade Klubnik, so we got one of them, but we didn't get them all, unfortunately. Right, let us move this on. I want to make progress with these. Big 12 next. Oklahoma State versus Texas at the AT&T Stadium, home of the Cowboys. Boo! Texas 15-point favorites for this. Now, who would have said this, Ryan, when Oklahoma State got blown out at home in the non-con schedule by South Alabama and looked really bad? that they would work their way up to title contention in the Big 12, but they have finished off the season hot, hot, hot. Probably hotter than any other team, maybe barring Texas, in the Big 12, and they've managed to wrestle their way in there. Texas, they've been a good team this year. They screwed up in the Red River rivalry, but again, rivalry game form out the window. They've had some struggles, but as we've seen in the Big 12 this year, the Big 12 have been eating one another alive, and in a conference that has been eating each other alive, they've always managed to come out on top, just bar one. But Oklahoma State, red hot. And Gundy, what a job he's done this year from where they were. Again, another big favourite in this, but in a year full of turmoil in the Big 12, is there one final twist to end it?
Give me the Cowboys. Alan Bowman has either been terrible or brilliant. I think he's going to be brilliant. And I think they're going to cause the biggest upset of the championship weekend. Horns down.
Look at that. Is that a join in, Matt? Are you going Cowboys or are we going Longhorns?
I love Quinn Ewers. I think he might be low-key my favourite quarterback in this cycle if he declares. I don't think he's coming out, but if he did, low-key for his draft position, he's someone that I'd be interested in if I was in the quarterback market. But I'm going to go with the team that has the number one running back in college football, which is Gordon II. He has the most FBS yards on the ground. And I think Ox State just are going to run the ball down Texas's throat. Texas have been threatening to lose a big game for so long that in their biggest moment, when the playoff is on the line, they will fall.
It's just Texas, isn't it? It's a Texas thing to do to not win something when you should. It's a shame Jonathan Brooks could not be in this one because you've got two of the best running backs in the nation and you would have had a damn fine game between them. I just find it hard to believe the Cowboys and how inconsistent they've been. Ryan's right. If the right Cowboys show up, they can beat Texas. But if the wrong Cowboys show up, this could be an absolute shellacking. And it's been all good Cowboys recently. I think they're due a bad one. I'm going to go favorite here with Texas. But again, I would not be upset if they did win. Who was your preseason Big 12 title game, Ryan?
I had Texas to beat Kansas State.
Oh,
That's pretty close, considering how K-State shit the bed.
I think I had Texas to beat Oklahoma. So I had Red River rivalry in there, but it did not happen. So it happened during the season. And I got that wrong technically, but we had Texas in there. So I had Texas in my playoffs. I'm going to be great. If I get Texas, Georgia, and Washington, I get 3 of my 4 playoffs, which people said was crazy. I just miss out on Penn State, which bad. But yeah, I'm going Texas for this one, and the panel there is going Texas as well in the YouTube chats. Right, let's get through these last few. Oh, I don't even know if we need to debate this. Do we need to debate this? Michigan versus Iowa. Michigan 21.5 point favorites for the Big Ten championship. We saw what happened last year. I mean, but Ryan, if there's one unit in the country on either side of the ball that can win a game on its own with absolutely no help from the other, it is an Iowa defense, but it's a lot to ask to keep Michigan out there. I'm going to keep the analysis slow on this one because I don't think there's much to be said. But Big Ten title game, Rye, who do you have?
Well, Iowa's missing the Big Ten defensive back of the year. I say Cooper John, seeing an injury. He would have only kept Michigan to 30 at max. It's going to be an absolute blowout. The Wolverine. Iowa, one of my second favourite team in the nation. I love their football, despite everyone hating it. Michigan are going to batter them because Dax Hill is dog shit. Kirk Ferentz, like I say, is a clueless man. And his son couldn't coordinate high school football. Like I say, just a torrid offense. And Michigan will just wear them down. Penn State did. Penn State won, 33-0? But it took them till half-time to score. That's what Michigan will do. They will literally just smash the door in until they give the goods up.
Yeah, Matt, any dissent? No, yeah, it's just Michigan all round here.
I mean, the line's 21.5, and I'm pretty confident Michigan are going to cover that. And that says everything you need to know about Iowa.
Let's say prop bet. Iowa's defense scores more points than their offense. You're taking that?
No.
Ryan? Iowa's defense scores more than the offense.
No, they'll only score field goals.
What's the over-under on passing attempts for Michigan? I'm not asking him realistically. I mean, I'm saying to you, what is the line? Because we've seen Michigan totally shut down J.J. McCarthy when they felt good about things.
Against Penn State as well.
I mean,
saying that Iowa's a different breed of defense. I think you have to do both to beat them. So
I just think Corum and Edwards are going to run riot. I think this could be
it's going to be
embarrassingly bad.
Yeah. This is all Michigan. Let's just move on. This is going to be all Michigan. We're not going to debate that otherwise. American. Oh, sorry. Actually, Ryan. What was your Big Ten? What was your right? Okay, I'll start here. My Big Ten championship game for this year, I had Penn State winning against Wisconsin.
Penn State.
Thank you very much. Yes, I did. I had Drew Aller winning the Heisman. That's even the worst of mine. I had Penn State beating Wisconsin. I take my bow. I'm a clown. Who did you have, Ryan?
I had Penn State beating Wisconsin.
Oh, we were the same. I remember this.
Yeah, we did. Possible.
We did. But at least we agree. We thought on similar wavelengths. So, yeah, we can admit when we're wrong. Right. A game that's been ruined by injury here. SMU at Tulane. Tulane 3.5-point favorites. This is at Tulane's home ground. American, but obviously the big news dropped this week. Preston Stone broke his leg during the big win over Navy. So Keyshawn Jenkins, I think it is a freshman they've got coming in as his replacement. I mean, it's been a terrific year for SMU. Unbeaten in the conference season, 8-0 in the conference, just the same as Tulane. Tulane have not looked their dominating selves this year. They snuck by East Carolina. They snuck by Tulsa. A lot of, really close results for them there. But SMU are missing their lead guy, and Preston Stone's been so impressive for them this year. Does this kind of ruin this game, Ryan?
Yep, completely. It'll be a one-sided Tulane affair now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I just don't see a freshman that has no handle of such a high-powered offense coming in and just making magic on such short notice.
No.
It's really spoiled it.
Yeah. I think Tulane go out with a bang for Willie Fritz. They win.
Tulane are just too professional. Willie Fritz will just know what to do. You just terrorize a freshman quarterback. You just blitz him.
Yeah. Matt?
Yeah, I've got Tulane, but I'm just... While we're talking about these things, and Ryan has his say, I'm quickly looking at ESPN just to get an idea of whether my first reactions were right. SMU, ESPN has a 73% to win the game. Despite the line being 3.5 points in Tulane's favour. I don't know if their analytics model takes into account the fact that the quarterback isn't fucking playing the game. But they think in a big way that SMU are going to win this. So, I will not be surprised if SMU win this because ESPN has told me so. But give me Tulane, because you're absolutely right. They are the outfit that they are. And SMU, without their starting quarterback, how can you pick any other way?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go in Tulane as well. Who was your game to start the season? I had UTSA winning over Florida Atlantic. So I had 3rd and 4th in the conference, not 1st and 2nd.
I had Tulane being UTSA.
You were close then. You got one. You got one in there and you were very close to getting them both. Right. There's a few left to do and then we'll get out of here. MAC action at Ford Field. The Red Hawks versus the Rockets. Miami of Ohio versus Toledo. 7.5-point favorites, the Rockets. The Rockets are defending champions. First time the Red Hawks have been here in some time now. But with even the loss of Brett Gabbert, their quarterback, they have still continued to win games. Snuck by Ball State there. Toledo favored by 7.5. They have absolutely steamrolled. They've only lost one game this year, and that was Power 5 opposition. So, Ryan, who do you have? Toledo, Miami, Ohio?
This is where my upset is. I'm going to go with Miami over Ohio.
Damn,
Like they needed stuff to happen to get there. They've had a difficult path, but it's been a difficult season. But yeah, I think they're going to take down Toledo and cause quite a big shock.
Oh, that was going to be my surprise as well. I've grown an affinity to the Red Hawks this year, and I had them in my title games. So I'm having Miami of Ohio as well. Matt, you going favorites, or are you joining the upset bandwagon?
No, I'm with Toledo. I mean,
right then.
Yeah, they're. I mean, I just don't even think this will be real close. So
okay, fair dues. Who was your prediction game? Mine was Eastern Michigan beating Miami of Ohio. So Eastern Michigan let me down big, but I got the Red Hawks in the game, so I guessed that correctly. Who was yours, Ryan?
Well, it said Ohio, so I think I meant the Bobcats.
Yeah, the Bobcats.
Yeah, beating Eastern Michigan, so I got them both wrong.
Oh, yeah, the Ohio have been disappointing this year. We've got two left. Boise State versus UNLV, Mountain West action, 2.5-point favorites are Boise State. I'm just going to come out here and say I'm going to take the Rebels right away. I want them to beat Boise State. I am fully invested in this UNLV team, and I think they're going to win. But Boise, even without Andy Avalos, have won 2 in a row. Big games. They've got through. They won the title 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I think they won it. Recent winners of it, anyhow. Ryan, is it going to be the new boys, or is it going to be the old kids on the block?
Winners win. Even in hard times, bad seasons, they win big games. The Broncos don't deserve to be there, I don't think.
Yeah.
But I think they'll somehow find a way to win because they were once the Kings, and it's just a circle of life. They find their way back, and they're going to retake their crown, whether I think they deserve to or not.
Yeah. Matt?
I'm on UNLV. I'm riding the train. I believe in this team. And I mean, I came into this year thinking that UNLV were who they've always been, which is slightly embarrassing. And they've just turned it around massively. And what a disappointment it would be for them to lose this game. Massive, massive game.
Yeah.
And you're right. Boise have the pedigree. They've been here before. But how many of these players have actually done it for that team?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And I love it. I've got Brent and Lisa on the train. They believe in the Rebels as well. So let's have a big Rebels upset train, and we'll come back next week and we'll be really, really happy. Last one, Sunbelt, Appalachian State versus Troy. Troy 5-point favorites. Troy defending champions. Yes, defending champions, because I predicted them to win it last year. I lapsed my belief this year thinking that they weren't going to get there. They have. App State, though, it shouldn't be there. It should be James Madison. App State were best of the rest after. They've kind of been inconsistent this year, but they beat James Madison week before last. Only team to beat them this year. They've got pedigree. This is a very close one, but Troy are born and bred winners. I'm going to go straight out there, and I will get back on the Troy train. I will believe there. Ryan, who's going to win the Sun Belt?
The Trojans will defend their crown, and they'll do it again with defense, the old-fashioned way, because they're still just a stingy stalwart that can slow down anyone on any given day. So yeah, back-to-back titles for Troy.
Matt?
Yeah, I'm on James Madison. No, Troy. My bad.
Should be James Madison.
Yes, it should be. Shame on the NCAA.
Absolutely. Very quickly, Ryan, I forgot to mention, who was your Mountain West Championship prediction for this year?
Boise State to beat Air Force.
I have Boise State to beat San Diego State, so we both have Boise in there, just not UNLV. And who was your Sun Belt prediction? Oh dear God, I don't want to read this one.
I have Troy beating Marshall.
Oh, so you got one. I had Marshall South Alabama beating Marshall. Marshall finished bottom of their division, and South Alabama were like third in theirs. So balls that one
how
up big
shit
time.
it must be to pick Air Force to be in the bloody championship game and to go 8-0 and finish like it did. Sorry,
Yeah.
Ryan, but that's a cracking pick.
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry, there was one last one to finish it off, and then we're going to get out of here. And I'm going to do this because it's next week, but there's 11 left. Army versus Navy, the battle of the uniforms. Army's is better this year, again, for the second year in a row for me. Absolutely love it. Absolute banger. But of course, Brent's in the chat, and you ruined the Falcons season. So Navy gonna win this one. Ryan, who wins the final CIC game?
Army.
Yeah.
Pleasing Brent there.
I'm on Army as well.
Oh, all this pleasing Brent in the chat here. Yeah. Who do you pick, Brent? Army or Navy? I wonder. But yeah, we end the season. So you two, Army, Navy. Right, that wraps it up. Thanks everyone who has joined today. Really, really appreciate it. There was a lot to go through. There's a lot we haven't gone through, but we will backdate it to next week. We should be back at our regular time next week as well. We will be reviewing Championship Week, and then we'll be doing some more player depth things. We'll go through. Me and Ryan will give our predictions for the DOAC, the Heisman, all that sort of stuff, because I don't believe it's announced before next week. So we're going to do our own, and we might do our own little awards show as well and give out our own personal favorites. So there is a lot coming up, and then, as I say, the player stuff is going to come very soon because we've done teams all year. It's going to go into draft season as far as college football is concerned now, so that is coming on there. Anything else anyone wants to mention before we get out of here today? We're all good. Right. Again, thank you to everyone who's joined us. It's been a great Friday evening. Really enjoyed it. Next shows, we will be back on Sunday. Matt and Ash will be doing the reaction show for the Lions game against the New Orleans Saints. If you're watching the game, then outside of that, we'll be back on Monday to do the review show. Me and Ryan will be back on a week with a college pod. As I say, we'll be doing Championship Week review and maybe season review. We'll throw some stuff in there. You know where to find us. Roar of the Lions UK, all over the internet, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, all that good sort of stuff. Come follow us. We really appreciate you all. We appreciate all of you who've been in this evening. Enjoy Championship Week. I'm going to get ready for Oregon, Washington, and New Mexico State. Liberty now. Going to be great fun. We shall see you all again very soon. Just remains for me to thank Rye, thank Matt. We shall see you soon. One Pride.
One Pride.
Recording stopped.